Under new business, number 3, it's scratch.
Okay. This one here.
Yep.
This one.
She would run.
Don't need it.
What's his face is going?
Already do it.
I didn't even have it on my
Well, then I'm
agenda.
gonna miss his
Not
faces.
surprised.
Yours already, okay.
So,
This one gets closed out. and we don't
I
need
got a
it.
special edition
right?
agenda.
And make him like that.
I
So
want
you're gonna
the
try
ones
and get
that
that
come.
position.
I know, I need that color, I can't distinguish.
He did that.
The hour being 6:31,
On the fly. Yeah.
and Tuesday, May 2nd, I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'd like Kalina, recording secretary, to take attendance.
Charlie Sinclair,
Here.
Mike Romani,
Here.
Jay Tivnan,
Here.
David Bounds,
Here.
Gail Denayo,
Here.
Edwin Bonis,
Here.
Elizabeth Mary,
Here.
and Chair Bill Contardo.
Okay. Also seated with us tonight are Dean Tefren and Brandy Laughlin, the planning director and the assistant director. Tonight we have no presentations, and there's nothing she would be stating. Michael, would you sit on a voting member for tonight's meeting? Sure. Okay, so Michael will pick up that seat. That was Hamilton, he left. And so there's an opening, and then you'll be sitting in Michael's, Ham's seat. Okay. There's a change to the agenda, and that's on, I was just notified on new business number 3. Just scratch that off your list. I'd like to continue the public hearing for the 86 residential unit cluster down by the Weirs, and that, we'll open that up.
Interesting question.
Interesting question I got here. That's 6:33. Yes, and if Pat would go ahead, or who the presenter is?
Want to take it off the table? Move to have it taken off the table, perhaps? Wasn't it tabled at the last meeting?
It was continued because it was.
Then
public
it's a
hearing.
So we don't have to
continuation.
open it up? Okay,
No,
fine.
He just opened the public hearing.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Patrick Wood of Patrick Wood Law Office, here representing Phoenix Capital LLC, the developer and the owner of the property. Here with me this evening, again, are Mr. Vahe Appelian, one of the principals, and Mr. Jason Hill, the project engineer. I just want to give you an update on where we were at our last meeting. The planning board approved the CUP for the cluster residential development, the conditional use permit to eliminate certain man-made wetlands, and granted a waiver of the 75-foot perimeter buffer to a 40-foot perimeter buffer. That allowed us to go before the zoning board on April 17th. We had applied for 2 variances. The first one was to permit the roads to be built within certain parts of the 40-foot perimeter buffer. The second was to permit units to be constructed within the 10-foot setbacks from the perimeter and wetland buffers. In other words, on the perimeter buffer, there is an additional 10-foot setback, and on the 50-foot wetland buffers, there is also a 10-foot setback. All of the buildings, the houses, will be outside of the buffers, but they're within that 10-foot setback. The zoning board granted both of those variance requests. The issues that they made them basically subject to were 2 things. The first was they wanted the construction. The original plan was that the construction would come in on the westerly access road. The neighbors in Northern Heights were concerned about the impact that would have on them. So the developers agreed that all construction vehicles will come in through the main entrance, which is the westerly entrance on Endicott Street. The second issue that was raised by the neighbors, both the Northern Heights and a couple of the individual lot owners to the east, related to headlights
I
in
didn't qu-
their buildings. And so the zoning board wants to make sure that we have some sort of visual buffer along the easterly sides of the project. And we haven't decided exactly what that will be, and we'll probably come in with a proposal at the TRC, hopefully next week, and talk about that a little bit, and then come back to the planning board at the next meeting with a specific proposal on that. The next thing we were able to accomplish was we had a site walk last week with the Conservation Commission, and then followed up with a public hearing. They did send a memo out this afternoon. I'm not sure if that got to the board members or not. It was just a one-page memo, but basically it said they were going to give additional comments and recommendations, but they appreciated the site walk. Their final paragraph, I think, is the one that I want you to keep in mind. They said they would like to highly recommend that the planning board participate in a site walk of the project property because it would help them understand the applicant's argument for a wetland CUP for changes to the vernal pool buffer. The commission also feels that a site walk would also be very informative to get the layout of the land, terrain, and an idea of where the development of certain sections of the development will be. And so we're going to ask for that this evening as well. When we started this application process, we knew that there was a specific wetland that might be a vernal pool. We have subsequently determined that it is a vernal pool. We have submitted a conditional use permit application to the planning office to deal with the buffer. There's a 100-foot buffer under the ordinance for a vernal pool. But we have some ideas on making that buffer really effective rather than just a circular buffer, and that's what we will talk about with the conditional use permit. If we have the site walk, we can show you in more specifics what we have in mind with that. And we do have some plans that we will be able to give to you that show it a little bit as well. I'm not going through that tonight because you all haven't had a chance to review the conditional use permit application, and I don't want to get into that this evening. We've been dealing with the Department of Transportation. There was a traffic study done for this project back in the early 2000s. That was updated. The determination has been made that it was an equivalent traffic generation, but the volume of traffic on Endicott Street hasn't changed, or as such that even though there is an equivalent traffic generation, it doesn't require any other changes to the roads or the driveway. But the submitted information has been presented to the Department of Transportation. We're waiting for their final approval on the driveways. With regard to the Department of Environmental Services, we've submitted updated information to the wetlands. We've submitted information for alteration of terrain. That permit is in process. Finally, there's also the sewer connection to the Winnipesaukee, the basin, WSPCC, whatever the terms are for that connection. As you know, it's going to be a private sewer system on the site, but it's going to be connecting into the municipal sewer system, and in order to complete that, we need approval from the Winnipesaukee River Basin group down in Franklin. So that's in process. The Water Department is currently reviewing the details of the water system. The electricity is being reviewed by Eversource. We are going with an alarm system in the units rather than having them sprinklered, and That will be reviewed by the appropriate company that's going to be doing that with the fire department. The other thing that we have, we talked about this at the last meeting, is on the access road. There will be a control gate so that that will not be used for people coming in and out of the development. It'll only be used for emergency purposes. And there is a specific proposal on that that will be reviewed with the fire department. And hopefully we'll have some more detailed information on that at the TRC meeting. So what's new? Well, I mentioned the vernal pool. We've submitted the CUP application. The vernal pool is located in almost in the center of the property. And on the northeasterly side of the vernal pool is about a 50-foot rock pile from rock that was blasted and from the site itself. And on the the southwesterly side is a large loam pile that was again created from loam on the site. The vernal pool sits in a little basin, almost like a cauldron of a volcano, and it's very well protected and shielded right now. But the best way for you to understand that is to actually go out and see the site. A 100-foot circular buffer will take a good part of 3 or 4 of those units up here and 2 or 3 of the units here. So we might lose 7 to 8 units if we just did a circular buffer around the wetland buffer. What we want to talk to you about, and we've talked to the Conservation Commission about, is a directed buffer which focuses in the areas that would be the natural habitat for the animals that live in the vernal pool. There are 3 basic types of animals. There are fairy shrimp that live only in the pool, and they only live for a very brief period of time. And they lay their eggs, they go down to the bottom of the pool. When the pool dries out, they dry out, and then when the spring rains and the snow melt comes, they hatch and go through the process all over again. The second set of animals are wood frogs. They don't live in the pool. They live in the forest area around the pool, but they come back to the pool in the spring to mate, lay their eggs, and the tadpoles, it takes about 90 days from when the eggs are fertilized until the tadpole becomes a frog and is able to leave the vernal pool. Obviously, the hope is that the vernal pool stays sufficiently wet for the tadpoles to do that. The other animals are spotted salamanders, and they're basically the same situation as the wood frogs. They don't live in the pool, but they use the pool for breeding purposes. And the one difference is they are like salmon. They generally come back to the place where they were born. So we need to make sure that there's a clear path for them to get there. And the other land that's around the pool, as you will see when the site walk occurs, really isn't habitat for them. But the area that we're preserving as our protected area will be a perfect habitat. Again, we'll go through that in more detail at our next meeting. We made a couple of road name changes. The primary road, Woodland Drive, is going to be Skyview Drive. This circular road here was Sandpiper. It will now be Mockingbird Circle. We have responded to the third-party reviews, and we'll go through that in more detail at the TRC meeting next week. We may have to file a CUP for some work in a precautionary steep slope area in this area of Skyview Drive. At the last meeting, there was some discussion about the configuration of these 3 units to the southeast and 4 or 5 of the units around the end of what is now Mockingbird Circle. We have reconfigured the plan to have individual driveways to all of those units. This one will have a shared driveway. A duplex here will have a shared driveway. Before, we had basically streets with a big square at the end of Sandpiper Circle, and the same over here, and the fire department did not like that, so we've reconfigured those areas. We've also discovered in looking through the details of the plan that we might very well be able to get one more duplex in instead of one of the single-family units. So we'll have more information on that when we hopefully get to the TRC next week and before the next meeting of the planning board. So what we were going to ask for you to do tonight is have a site walk, but we can't move this just a little bit. I stand right here. How's that?
Perfect.
We could have a site walk the week of the 15th of May. So I'm not sure what your calendars look like, but any day that week would work for us. If we can schedule that would be awesome. The second thing we would like to ask for is we have this continued to the first meeting in June, which I believe is the 6th of June. Thank you. And the last thing is to have a TRC meeting on the 9th of May, which is a Tuesday rather than a Wednesday. And you're leaving on vacation?
On the 17th, yeah. So I think, given that we got the plans just today, I haven't had a chance to talk to the rest of the TRC, so we'll have to talk tomorrow about what'll work schedule-wise.
Okay. So we'll talk tomorrow then, or something. All right. The site walk on the 15th that week, Monday or Tuesday perhaps.
Is that drivable? Can you drive in there? I know there's some,
Well, you can drive in.
you only-
to the-
well, you
to the
can't
front.
drive in
You can't
because
drive-
they're blocked.
It's
There's
certainly
blocks.
walkable.
It's walkable, I understand that.
Right.
But if I ask people for back and knee problems and all that, on how many people are capable of walking the whole site, that's my point.
Well,
You
I
know,
mean, it is
You really
walkable.
need to walk.
huh?
You really need to walk.
You really have to walk,
Not
huh?
drive.
And you can't drive around
No
in
golf
there.
carts.
I mean, it isn't,
No cut.
you know, there are some areas to park. There's a barrier that we have so people aren't going in there.
Right.
You can't get through there, and limited places to park, some in the front. But if that's an issue, we'll figure out a way to get people there.
And what's the prime purpose of that walkthrough?
It's important, we think, for you to see what the property really looks like. And we're asking you to grant approvals for things that are very two-dimensional on here. But when you see the property, like that vernal pool, for example, when you see just how that is actually situated in the ground, you get a much better understanding of what we're talking about when we talk about a directed buffer rather than the circular buffer.
Is there any precedent for a directed buffer as opposed to a circular buffer?
There actually is. In Maine, they've specifically been dealing with that. And in my CUP application, I've submitted some information on that. The reason it's so important for this particular site is because when it was originally approved, the setback or the buffer from the wetlands was 30 feet. And they followed that 30 foot. You can still see the orange snow fence at the 30-foot marker. So much of this land has already been disturbed. And so a 100-foot circular buffer is in land that really would never be habitat for any of these critters, the frogs or the salamanders. Just wouldn't be. The other thing, though, that's so important is there is a natural ridge that rises from the pool that would be a barrier, even if there hadn't been this clearing and other material outside of it. So it's really, it's helpful to see that, so you get an understanding of what it looks like, and how that just naturally flows this way. Anyway, I mean, there's a lot of area to the northwest of the vernal pool, but the primary flow of the, the use of the land would be heading down where there's additional wetland.
Is the acreage the same size as it would have been with the 100-foot buffer around the vernal pool? Roughly
Well-
the same?
Yes, it would be, because we're, I mean, by,
It's just a different shape.
it's just a different shape, that's right. But we'll go through that in more detail at the next meeting, but the site walk would allow you all to see why we're suggesting that, and why we think it's more important to think about the habitat than it is about a circle. So those are the three things that we're requesting. I can move now. The sun has moved.
Thank you.
So, a site walk, if that's possible. Are there any other questions?
It's up to,
Yeah, I'd like to go if I could. I don't know
Well-
whether we all have to go, or they have
well,
to go.
if the planning department will coordinate that with the board, and
You want it the week of the 15th?
Yes, please.
The only day I can't do is the 16th, not that it matters, but that's the only
I
day
can do the
can't
15th, I can't do any other day.
15th would work for me.
so that might need some fine tuning as far as who's available on what given day.
We just need to make sure it's,
Yeah, I mean, it's hard
Published.
to get a,
Can
Because
we
it'll
do
be
our
a-
own private sidewalk?
I'm sorry?
Can we do our own private sidewalk?
Well, shouldn't really do that.
No's a perfectly good answer.
Yeah, no, it shouldn't be done. It should be something that's done with the board in a noticed meeting so that the public can be there as well. That's the purpose of it, because it would really be another meeting of the planning board, a special meeting of the planning board to do it. So,
well, the old members of the board, and I guess I'm it, right? We did a walk 2 years ago on that property. And quite honestly, it's...
Remember it, too.
A few around, but that's, it's not an easy thing to walk through that property. We know that. I mean, not that there's many obstacles in there,
no.
but it's not,
Bring boots.
bring roots and bring your
Boots,
health, right.
Right.
So, whatever the will of the board is and who's going to be there when, I'll show up, obviously. And if I can drive through it, it makes it even better. But if I can't, we'll hobble through it, I guess.
What time do you think we should do this?
Time of the day?
Time of the day?
Oh, I won't set a time. It depends upon the board, the availability of members of the board. I mean, I'm basically available. So, I mean, I wouldn't do it
I guess
4
what
o'clock in the morning.
What I'm asking is if you set that now, then we don't have to send out notices to people that it's happening. We would just set the
Who's
date
the
and
notice
time right
sent
now.
to? You're asking the board to go, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So if the planning department coordinates that with the board members,
But how do we notify the public that we're doing it? That's my
Send out.
concern.
I don't know.
You have to,
We don't have to notify the public?
I believe.
Okay, it'll be a posting. All right, so if you say there'll be a posting that they're going to have a site walk, you'll post the date and time in the appropriate places for that site walk. That's fine with me, just so that,
And the purpose is for that one area that you're talking about,
well,
right?
the purpose is to see the whole
I
project.
understand that, but the
Right.
primary purpose is for that one area that
I
you're talking about.
really would like you to see the
Okay.
vernal pool, and because we're going to be talking about the CUP. The other thing I want you to see is the steep slope area that we're going to be talking about as well. And we've also got a request for a sidewalk waiver that you haven't ruled on yet. We'd like you to see that land and why we're requesting that waiver. Okay.
Can I just ask one question quickly? The Department of Transportation, you're just waiting for what, one more thing from them with regards to the main entrance? You said at the beginning of the presentation,
Yes.
and that was
Um,
just a write-off,
I think-
a
well,
sign-off?
Yeah, I think we've submitted everything that they've asked us to submit. I don't know exactly what the time frame will be on that. Do you know, Mr. Hill?
It should be within three weeks. We submitted an updated traffic impact analysis with some just modifications to some of the proposed dense traffic generation. And so they're reviewing the revised report, and they need to approve the revised report before they can issue the driveway permit. Typical timeframe at this phase of the development would be, in this phase of the review process, with the minor changes that we had made, I would anticipate be 3 to 4 weeks.
By the time we have our next meeting, we should have their,
After our next walk-around.
Okay.
right.
Thank you.
The submitted update information to the DOT, was it dated recently, or was it last year, or what's the date on that?
Well, the Department of
Updated
Transportation.
information.
Yeah, that was just,
I don't.
Last week?
It would have been,
Last year?
no.
it would have been.
A few months ago?
May 1st or April.
April something?
Either yesterday or the end of last week.
And a copy of that report was provided to the planning office. 2 copies of the report were, as a courtesy, were provided to the planning office.
Okay, great. So I can find it.
Pat, I have a question.
Yes.
The last meeting,
Yeah,
several of the abutters wanted us to change the entrance and the exit of some of those roads because of the lights and because of the way the traffic was going to flow, which didn't occur before when they bought the property. They were very concerned about that. That's what we want to know, too.
Right, well, that was, and that came up at the zoning board as well. And that was one of the conditions, that all construction will come through the main entrance. We won't use this for this access, emergency access for construction, except when we're actually building it and putting the houses there. And then we'd have to put some sort of a visual buffer, whether it's arborvitae or a fence or something, that will keep whatever car lights from entering onto that property. So that's one of the conditions that the zoning board put on it as well.
What about up in the...
And as well here, I mean, that would be,
Okay.
I mean, when you see this, you'll get a better understanding of that as well. But, you know, this is not going to have a whole lot of traffic, but we may have to do some additional planting of evergreens or arborvitae or something along here to provide a visual buffer. So that's what we're planning to do there. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you.
I just have just one question on process. So right now, and at the meeting in June, you'll finish off the sort of topographical questions around the physical site, and then the next meeting after that, you'll go for the full approval? Is that what your process is?
Well, I'm hoping to get the full approval in June.
In June, all right. I just didn't know how it fit
If we
together.
can get the TRC meeting, we'll get a lot of the details ironed out at the technical review committee, and then the hope is that we can come in here in June with all of those questions answered and present you the final picture.
Thank you.
Okay? And that's another good reason for having the
I got a
sidewalk.
question for you guys. Is June enough time to process this information? Do you have any concerns about that? I mean, we're talking about the next meeting.
We just received plans to review again today. They have to be sent to third party again, so I think we're gonna hope that third party moves quickly. So there's that timeline we have to think about, and then, as a result of the revised plans we received today, it really depends on how many more issues or revisions may be needed, so.
We can schedule it for June, and if...
I mean, you should definitely continue the hearing to June anyway. You don't have to schedule when you're going to accept something
okay.
or approve something.
Okay.
What we want is not necessarily what you are going to do. We understand that.
Is that it for you, Pat? Your input right now?
I think that's all I have. If you have any other
I'll
questions.
turn to the staff. Can you, what's your review? Any input? Let's go.
At this time, we don't really have anything
Anything
different
you
from
wanna say
last month,
about
just
it?
that it's not ready
Okay.
for approval.
Okay.
But I don't know if there's anyone from the public.
Okay, any abutters want to be heard on this project, as we had coming in from last month? Anybody at all? Okay, so be it. And I'm going to close the public hearing, and it's,
Do you want a motion to continue this public hearing?
Yep.
Let's close it.
Oh, no, you have to close it anyway.
Okay.
At 7:01, we'll close the public hearing. I need a motion for, to continue this hearing to the next month.
I'll make the motion to continue it to next month.
And a second on that?
Second.
Did you second that, Liz?
Yes.
Okay, any discussion? None being brought forward. Okay, can I have a raise on those in affirmative? Anybody abstaining? And anybody opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously, so see you next month, I guess.
And you'll let us know on the sidewalk?
Yep.
Right, okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
We have five, I believe it's five, public hearings for different projects. And the reason they're here tonight is that each one of them has been brought here and has not been heard before. The applicants have not been here before, so we'll have each one, we'll accept their application, and as long as everything's in order, and have them give their input on that. The first one being Elm Street, Lakeport Fire Station. I need is this applicant, everything in place for this applicant?
I would say.
Okay, everything's in place. So I need a motion to accept the application.
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? All right. And I guess, Steve, you're the man.
I just want to mention to the board, if I could, this is an application by the city. This
is by the city.
This is a
Okay.
city application.
I'm not sure I brought enough copies either. The board seems to grow. You might have to share these little bit. Color rendering.
Share every time, Steve.
We'll let you off the hook, Steve, we'll share.
Well, I have a lot. I just didn't, guess I better pay attention to them.
Thank you.
Anybody want to get an extra one? Charlie, you can't bend too well, I'll do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Steve Smith of Steve Smith and Associates. I'm here tonight representing the city of Waconia for a subdivision lot consolidation of 3 parcels of land located off from Union Avenue, Elm Street, and Railroad Avenue. And the plan I gave you, I colored up the 3 lots that we are talking about. Tax map lot 367-7125 is the Lakeport Fire Station lot. That is on this drawing on this side. I've highlighted the shape of the lots as they are today. This side is our proposed reorganization of those lots. So the yellow on this side is the current property lines for the fire station. Tax map lot 367-189-24 is where the city has their parking lot behind the fire station. The parking lot is actually located this way. The lot is actually, this part of the parking lot is on the state of New Hampshire Railroad property. And then the lot that I've highlighted in pink, which is 367-7126, is a city lot currently under lease for Lakeport Landing. Most of you are probably familiar with that lot itself. And that stretches all along Union Avenue. The building is up here somewhere, but this is the lot that we're talking about in this area here. And those maps I gave you highlight those areas. The proposal is to reshape, basically really to reshape the Lakeport Fire Station lot, which would end up being, this is where it exists today, this is what we're talking about now. The remainder of these two lots in here, which is actually within the Railroad Avenue corridor, which is, as I understand it, is not a city street at this moment. There's going to be some additional work beyond this, but this remaining green area up here will actually become part of the Railroad Avenue corridor right-of-way, if you will, but there has to be some work done through Public Works and the city to lay that out, accept that, and go forward with that. But that land will become part of that corridor. And then the other lot, which is the lot that's currently occupied by Lakeport Landing under a lease, the proposal, this is the lot as it is today, stretches up through here. The proposal is to take this portion of that lot, it'll become a part of this property here. There is a little additional area down here, parcel E, which will become part of the Elm Street right-of-way itself. This is where the Lakeport Association has their park. And that's the reason why we've moved the line. The boundary line was originally down here, but through working with the city, they're going to put the line here to keep that as part of the park. That'll become part of Elm Street right-of-way. And then the remaining parcel H up in here is the remaining land of where the current Lakeport Landing office is now and showroom. So the intention here is to reorganize these lots, parcel, and there's a note on your plan above here. This is the chart of those areas that we've labeled A, B, C, D, and E, and these are how these parcels come together as a consolidation of lots, basically. And I think that's really about it. I'm happy to answer questions. It might sound confusing, but it's actually taking some areas that are pretty confusing and straightening them out.
Mr. Chairman, could you just talk to the sidewalk access? When I was reading the documents, I wasn't quite sure on...
Well, the sidewalk's out here.
Okay, and
Okay.
but you're going to be doing something different with the access?
Well,
into those
that is
lots?
part of a site plan that the people have signed an agreement to buy this from the city. Will have to come in with a site plan. I can give you some general, but I'm not here for a site plan review, but we are proposing to close up this entrance. It's too close to the intersection. It's difficult to get in and out of there. So the sidewalk will be extended in this area here. The sidewalk will stay along this area here.
Good, thank you.
Beyond that, we haven't really got the development plan fully together. So we start out with 3 parcels of land. Lakeport Fire Station parcel behind it, which a portion of the city parking lot is on, and then the piece owned by the city that's being leased by Lakeport Landing. Those 3 parcels will now become these. This will be the right-of-way. This lot is, this parcel C goes with this parcel. It can't be developed as a separate lot, can't be sold as a separate lot. And then this remaining land, I believe, is up for sale also by the city. Once we get through this process, and then again, whoever buys the property will have to come in for any redevelopment plans in the site, as a site plan.
Sorry, everybody probably knows the answer, but on the railway line, that is used occasionally, is it not? Or is it not used at all?
Well, it's owned by the state of New Hampshire. The Hobo Railroad uses it.
Yeah. So therefore, the parcel C connecting with B and A, there won't be any, well, you're not doing a
Well,
site.
there will be, and no, that's a good question. We currently have a crossing up here to get to this parcel, and we're going to have a crossing here to get to this parcel, and more than likely that crossing will be taken out. We have had discussions with Division of Railroad, New Hampshire DOT Railroad Division. Matter of fact, I'm meeting next week with them out there. They have a copy of a concept plan of the location of what that crossing would be. So, yes, you'll be accessing this lot when it's done. The access to this lot will be here, not out here, and access to this lot will be in this general location here.
Is that,
Yes.
any input from the planning department?
Not a lot of input. As you can see, they're taking what is a very interesting situation with the roads, which actually I think was just discovered when they started looking into this, and cleaning that up a little bit. You're going to end up with a developable lot with the fire station, and then that lot on the other side of the track that's being cut out of the pink one will be subject to restrictions so that it can never be sold or treated as a separate lot as the parcel across from the railroad tracks. So we'd recommend approval.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to add something that I neglected to tell you. Currently, the city has a sewer line that comes through here, crosses the railroad tracks, and goes up this parcel. As part of this proposal and the agreement with the city, an easement will be provided to the city for this sewer line in this location here. And the city's going to keep an easement in the back corner by the fire station because they have some kind of a control box for the fire department that needs to be moved out of the fire station building itself. But that'll be all part of the site plan process too. But I wanted you to know that.
That was my question.
Yes.
I was just wondering should you recommended approval, is it subject to the agreement with the state of New Hampshire?
For the crossing?
Yes, or is there anything that's conditional upon?
I don't think at this point that's necessary. When it's redeveloped, absolutely. Okay. If they intend to use that parcel as a part of it. Thank you.
Anybody from the public want to give some, yes, please come up and state your name.
My name's Chip Avery, and I own the restaurant that abuts this. So, I guess my question is why does the city want to sell public parking? I understand that they want to still sell the fire station, but this lot is used to capacity every weekend. And it's used during the day by some of these businesses here. And so I'm a little bit concerned about losing the parking. Secondly, you're going to close off this entrance to this lot, so now you're going to tell me the access to this lot is going to be through this piece here?
That will be decided when the lot's redeveloped. At this point, it's just a reconfiguration of property.
I understand that, but you're reconfiguring it so you can sell the fire station is what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
That's the bottom line.
That's right.
But so that the marina can buy the fire station, I should say, not so that you can sell the fire station. So why would you give up public parking in Lakeport for the future of Lakeport? It's the only municipal parking in Lakeport's area. There were 10 spaces set aside in this parking lot that went away when we did the bridge reconstruction. That we're supposed to, if you read the lease, that were set aside for 10 public parking spaces. That there hasn't been access to.
I would simply say that we are not giving away anything. This might be something the city council has agreed to do. We're here for a different, I understand the concern, but we're here for a different issue. I may not agree with the city giving it away. It's here for something else.
Which is?
To have us reconfigure it, apparently, so it becomes more valuable to the buyer. That's sort of what I'm taking it as, to the buyer.
What about the population of the zone?
I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I think the problem is that's a city council question as to why they're agreeing to sell it, not a planning board.
And what about the traffic concerns? Does that not involve?
That it would involve us, yes.
And when the property is developed, who controls what restrictions are put on that? The council?
That will come to the planning board for a site plan approval, because it would be a commercial site plan at that point.
I mean, for example, if a building is built in that parking lot, with, you know, the proposal made by the marina was to leave the parking, but now the talk about let's put a storage building there because we need the money to, you know.
So any commercial redevelopment or multifamily development would come to the planning board as a site plan approval. So you as an abutter would be notified again.
Right.
Yes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because technically that's a road
Yeah.
at that point?
Well, and then, you know, I have a 30-foot right-of-way that goes from here all the way to Elm Street, which is across city property.
Then eventually, it's going to become a street.
Right. Right. But that's not going to do away with the right-of-way. But, you know, I'm concerned about the traffic flow. It's not good now with the store there and the trucks unloading. And I don't know. You're getting rid of this entrance. That's one of the things you're deciding here, correct?
Not tonight.
But isn't that part of your site plan approval to let them eliminate that entrance?
Well, we don't really know what
Okay.
what the resulting site plan proposal will be. That was, I think, just
So I would look at it as like how valuable is this configuration versus this configuration? I think that one would be equally problematic. So if, like, let's say the city decided to sell those sites the way they are in the current configuration, would that be any bit better than this one?
Well,
You know,
I don't think the city should sell those two sites. because-
Right, which is what we're trying to say, is that's not what
That's
we're
not your
having a
problem,
conversation
right.
about. But if another organization did purchase one of these, then we would be talking about all the issues that you're bringing up. How to handle the road, how to handle your right-of-way, and so on. So what we're trying to say is, looking at these two configurations, this one is more beneficial to the city and probably in the long run to even you, when you look at what could go in there and deciding that how traffic is going to flow, because that would be addressed as soon as they
I
bring
don't
the
know that I
plans.
would agree with that, but.
Well, I don't know if that is any better from what you're saying.
Well, the parking is there.
Well, true, and the parking is still there, it's just, we're having imaginary line conversation right now.
Is the parking going to stay there?
Yeah, no, once the person buys
Wouldn't
that
that
property,
question
what's going to
exist in
stop
either
them from doing
situation?
whatever they
Well,
want?
that's my question. That's what I wanted to ask him.
Right.
You know, zoning, you know, the setbacks are met, what's to stop?
Because for whatever they put in that building, they also need parking, so therefore,
Boat storage, indoor boat storage?
no, they need parking for their customers.
Yeah, but the customers aren't going to be utilizing that.
That's the only parking space they're going to have for that business.
Well, they got this over here, too. If they put
And
the
how they
railroad
get there,
crossing in.
yeah.
You want a couple more? Yeah, go ahead.
I can answer some of your questions. This isn't a site plan review, but that parking's not going away. This building is not going to go in that parking space. There is an agreement with the city relative to that parking that's there now. It's part of the agreement in the purchase and sales agreement in the negotiations that were made when this property was put out to bid, and he had an opportunity to bid on it. So we're here for a subdivision. We'll be back for site plan. We'll answer those questions on the site plan. We'll provide the parking that's necessary and answer all the questions relative to the agreement.
Yeah, we can't.
So I think a little bit early,
Well,
it's nice to have your concerns, and you should
Yeah.
express them. But for the process that's going to take place, and what actually is like you're saying, egresses and stuff like that, that is down the road. That's not at this point in time. That's not a site plan.
Yeah, we have no say.
I think it's worth bringing up now.
yeah, I do too, but, you know.
It's good, it's good,
Yeah.
it's all good.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a city application, and it's beneficial that the city comes before the planning board for this kinds of approval, but do they need it?
For this,
Yes.
legally, yes. A plan can't be recorded at the registry without planning board approval and signature. If it was a site plan, which we've seen before, I don't know what we saw most recently. The fire station. They came almost, it's kind of like a courtesy, but also to, make sure that we're following our own rules if possible.
Yeah, that was central station.
Is that it, in your input?
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
I just had a question. Did the city consider any other subdivision options? Like, they've got it into 3 parcels now. Did they consider a 4th parcel? Sorry.
No, the city offered it the way I have that laid out. That's what the offer was. That was what it was put out to bid for.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public input? Anybody else want to speak on this? Okay, I'll close the public input at 7:20. I guess we'll move on to the next applicant. Thank you. Is there a vote on this?
Yeah, you're approving this.
You need to vote on it.
We have to vote on it.
Okay, well, let's, we have a vote on accepting what was proposed.
Well,
No, I don't think so.
We have some
What's that?
staff comments?
Yeah, all of our dates and recommended conditions are included on the staff regular.
and do I have to reference both, all of these numbers?
On the front,
Yeah, PL 207, 2017-0044
that would be helpful for the record.
SU. Pardon?
That would be helpful for the record.
Okay. 23 Elm Street, MBL 367-189-24, and 267-71-25, and 26, the Lakeport Fire Station and area proposal to subdivide and consolidate the lots. I move that we grant conditional approval with the following criteria. 1, Mylar final plans, June 6, 2017, complete. 1D, completion May 1st, 2018. 2, there are no plan revisions. 3 other conditions, 3A, and 4A through D. It's my motion. I'm the city councilor.
I will second it.
Motion have accepted, seconded. Any more comments on it? Any discussion? None being requested. I'll call the vote. Who's in favor of that motion, please raise your hand. Any opposed? All in favor? Thank you. Again, the next one is, next public hearing is for merger of 2 lots on Lakeshore Avenue and Wesley Avenue in the Weirs. Again, this applicant has not been accepted in the past, so is this application intact? Is it complete?
Yes, I think this one, actually, you guys did accept last month.
Yeah.
We did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I thought I drove up to see it today to figure it out. So I think it was on tonight's agenda. So this has already been approved.
So this has been accepted prior?
Accepted, not approved.
Accepted.
Yep.
This has been accepted before?
Accepted,
Okay,
not
so just like a
approved.
continuation, I would... Yes, I'll open the public hearing and this at 7:25. Set your name and...
Good evening. My name is Brian Bailey, representing this boundary line adjustment plan. And as I stated earlier, last meeting, there are 5 different property owners that are involved in this particular transfer boundary line adjustment. And it was prudent, or in my opinion anyways, a simplified method of presentation to put these into 2 packages. Basically, I've identified the block at the end of Morris Ave and Thompson Ave as a plan, and that will entail the properties owned by Winchell Family Trust, Lisa Realty Trust, and the Hovanian Realty Trust. So there's 4 distinct property owners actually in there when you include the current owner of the Paper Street Lakeshore Ave, which is owned by 4 distinct parties. You know, they're joint ownership. So it's rather confusing in the beginning. I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible. The purpose of the plan is to eradicate 2 paper streets. Lakeshore Ave, as it is in front of the Winchell property and the Mary Lee Hovanian property, and then to eradicate a portion of Wesley Ave, which is between Thompson Ave and Morris Ave. As I've already stated, Lakeshore Ave is owned by all 4 parties. The Paper Street West portion of Wesley Ave is owned by one individual, Mr. Winchell. So Mr. Winchell happens to have 2 properties that front on Thompson Ave. They're lot number 71 and 72. And his lot number 71, which is a waterfront lot essentially, has its partner lot, which is the waterfront on the opposite side of Lakeshore Ave. So we're going to divvy up Lakeshore Ave so that the Lakeshore portion will now be connected to the landward properties. And Wesley Ave will be divided between two properties. Mr. Winchell's lot number 72, which is on Thompson Ave, and the Lisa Realty Trust property adjacent to it, which fronts on Morris Ave. The plan that shows all the bits and pieces and the wherewithal to do these many transfers is the second sheet that I've provided in that 3-sheet package. And I'm going to try to take the parcels as I've identified alphabetically. Parcels A and B are the division parcels of the Paper Street Wesley Ave. Parcel A will be annexed and become part of lot number 72, Mr. Winchell's. Parcel B will be annexed to lot number 78, which is Lisa Realty Trust. Parcel C, which is a strip of land you'll see between lot 71 and 72, and is in fact part of lot number 72, which is being transferred to lot 71. This is an internal lot line between those lots. It has nothing to do with either of the 2 rights-of-ways. So that's parcel C. Parcels D and E are a partitioning of the Paper Street Lakeshore Ave, and parcel D will become part of lot number 71. And by doing that, lot number 71-1, the actual parcel that fronts on the lake, will also be attached and become a singular part of lot number 71. Parcel E is the intervening section of Paper Street, Lakeshore Ave, which is going to be annexed to the Hovanian Trust property, as well as to connect now their waterfront lot. It's important to note that the Winchell property and the Hovanian property, the one deed that they already have today actually describes 2 tracks. The property that the home is actually centered on, which is not on the water, and then it goes on to say, and including the property, essentially says, including the property directly across Lakeshore Ave, which abuts the lake. They're separate and distinct tracks because there's a paper street between them, but they're actually described on the one deed. So that's why they're all shown and they're all completely described, and that takes care of, well, no, it doesn't. I'm up to parcel E, and then the last thing I'm going to do is on this sheet is parcel H. And this is an exchange of land between the Hovanian Trust property, which has the home on it, and the Lisa Realty Trust property. And this, you will see, is actually an exchange of land from the Lisa Realty to the Hovanian Realty, and it bisects essentially the area between the homes, which is a parking lot. So the purpose there is to divvy up the available land equally amongst those two properties so that they will each have adequate and sufficient parking. It's important to note here that the trustee of both of these tracts of land is Mary Lee Hovanian. She just has 2 different entities. So it's really one person, but 2 legal entities. That's what makes it very confusing. I'll go on to the second set of, the second piece of the puzzle, which is the block between Morris Ave and Allen Ave. This is a little bit less confusing in that we're only going to deal with those properties at the end of Morris Ave, which is owned by James and Pamela Cott Trust, which is lot number 81, and the property at the end of Allen Ave, which is lot number 87, owned by Sean and Melanie Flanagan. Again, they have in their deed 2 tracts, the landward side, which has the building, and the parcel opposite the Paper Street, Lakeshore Ave, which abuts the lake. And they're all identified on the tax map individually. So here again, we see that Paper Street, Lakeshore Ave between Morris Ave and Allen Ave, which is going to be divvied up and given to those adjacent properties to make them whole and as a single unit. We've identified parcel F, which is that piece between the Cott properties, and parcel G, which is that piece of Lakeshore Ave between the Flanagan properties. So at the end of the day, on these 2 blocks, you have 2 lots between Allen Ave and Morris Ave, one of them owned by Sean and Melanie Flanagan, only 2 lots, and the other one being owned by James Cott Realty Trust. So you're taking 5 lots and you're ending up with 2. And if you go back to the Morris Ave, Thompson Ave block, at present, you have 2 tracts of land at the waterfront. You've got the road right-of-way, Lakeshore Ave, so that's 3. You got the Winchell property, the Hovanian property, 4 or 5, another Winchell property, the Lisa property, 6, 7, and you have the Wesley Ave Paper Street. You've got 8 tracts right this moment, and at the end of the day, you end up with 4. So that's a long way around the barn, and it was a pretty difficult thing to try to make not confusing, and to still be able to identify and measure and make the meets and bounds descriptions for all the parcels that needed to be transferred. There is an encroachment issue that has been identified, and it has to do with the Paper Street Wesley Ave. I have my determination of where the property lines are out there identifies the Kevin and Rita Sullivan property, shown on the maps as number 77. That's the south side of Wesley Ave. Their porch and deck overhangs the property line about a foot for all intents and purposes, and there's an old iron post fence that's close to the Thompson Ave and running with Wesley Ave that's also an encroachment. There are other encroachments of buildings that are the Cott building in particular. The Hovanian building has a little bit of an overhang on it, the sheds. I mean, not the sheds, the porch. But all in all, I think it's amazing that they're this close. If you know this area at all, most of these lots are 25 feet wide and 40 feet long, and boy, oh boy, it's real tight up in this area. The Wesley Ave has been purchased, as I said before, by Mr. Winchell, and he has been working with the Sullivans to facilitate some easement to allow the structures to stay within the delineated property lines until such time as renovation or fire or some kind of renovation takes place, at which time the easement would go away, and the Sullivans would be required to construct their structure on their own property. Notwithstanding that, I have a copy of the deed that is proposed. I'm of the understanding that the Sullivans have yet to read it or make their final agreement to it one way or another, so that's as much as I know about it. But towards that very end, whether or not they agree to it this evening or not, it's really not a matter for this board to ponder or adjudicate. It's a civil matter between the parties. The buildings have been where they are for God knows how long, and they're still going to stay there. There's nobody going to move them. There's no change in terms of the physical wherewithal of the property in any of this. There's nothing going to be moved, modified, changed. You can't see anything that's going to be modified. Any encroachment or that has occurred in the past 100 and something years. This development actually started in the 1870s. And so things have been as they are for many, many years. And we're not here to tell anybody that they need to move anything. I'm only here to tell you that I have done my very best to identify the title lines as the deeds and the survey maps that have put themselves forward over the last 150 years guided me. And these are the facts as I have come to know them. So I hope that explanation was clear as can be, but if you need extra clarification, I'll do my very best. Thank you.
Staff, any input from staff on this?
Yeah. So overall, we're very much in favor of this.
Excuse me. My name is Mrs. Sullivan. I'd like to speak, possible?
Yes, public, you'll be allowed input in a minute. Go ahead.
So it's important to note that every single one of these lots is non-conforming today, and they will all remain non-conforming when all this is done. They become a little less non-conforming, which is a good thing. And the general concept here of everything that he's merging together and the lot lines that he's moving, we have no issues with, except for the issue with the Sullivan property that we have brought to his attention and needs to be addressed. And that is, part of the Sullivan structure is going to be, it is now, and is, under this plan, is going to be over the property line, and it's our suggestion that either the property line be jogged so that the Sullivan property is completely contained on their lot, or at the very least, some type of an easement is given to the Sullivans in order for them to, A, keep their structure, and they need to be able to obviously maintain it. They need to be able to get around their porch in order to maintain, and if they need to paint it, they need to fix it, whatever it is. So that needs, that at the very least, but our preference would be some type of a jog on the property line so that the Sullivan property is the Sullivan property and the rest of it is everybody else's. That's the cleanest thing to do.
Have you done the, as Brian agreed to do, the utility easements, that aspect?
Yes, so they are shown on the plan. Well, they're shown on the plan, but there's no exact location in the easement language, so they're as accurately represented as the language allows.
Okay.
In order to do this, the gentleman that's speaking has to apply for a boundary line adjustment, is that correct?
I mean, he is doing that.
Okay.
That's one of the things that he's doing, yes, yeah. And the only thing that we're, at this point in time, unsure of, and is whether they're going to go the easement route to fix the Sullivan property issue, or they're going to do a little jog in the property line. I don't know what they've decided, and I don't know what the parties have decided.
So what does that leave us if they don't have resolution?
I don't know, I think you should hear from Mrs. Sullivan and see what's going on, and then maybe we'll know better.
Come up, any butters?
I just received this from Mr. Winchell, quick claim, so I haven't read it. So please bear with me. My husband's had this for 3 generations. The property is still the same. Nothing's been changed since Mr. Winchell bought the property on Wesley Ave. That was a year ago, and that's when he informed us. So prior to this, we've been coming down Morris Ave into Wesley Ave. The wrought iron fence goes along Wesley Ave, Thompson Ave. We've come in, compact right at the very Wesley Ave. Our porch is here. Okay? We go into our yard, we come out of our yard. That's when we found out that George bought that. All we asked for him is to have us have access in and out. Last year, we pulled into the yard at an angle so that we could get out. He then owns from Thompson to Morris 6 cars. Now he wants 8 cars. So this stops us from coming out of the property, just to come out. That's all we're asking for, to go in our own yard, have a car here and a car here. Our land is here, the fence is here, so the car is parked here. He asked us last year, move my car, pull it over to the side of the house so that he could park 2 more cars. In the meantime, when I have going out to Lisa Trust, she's now asking for this foot. If we try to come out that way, you say go back a foot. It doesn't make sense. And the other thing is, in 1988, I had the house surveyed. I can't locate the papers right now. That was 32 years ago. I do have the name of the person. Was Ronald Mitchell Associates out of Hoyt Road in Laconia, and it was referred by Bud Bishop. And it was Mr. Kaufman who did it. I never received, or I can't locate it at the moment, the copy of the surveying paperwork from when we had it. And then in the quick deed, from when my husband and his sister owned it, I had purchased half of it. In the quick deed, warranty deed I have, which I have a copy, certain lots of land with the building within the city of Laconia in Belknap, being lots of 8, 10, 12 on Wesley Ave are in the Winnipesaukee Cape grounds near Weirs Beach, so-called. As far as I know, that's not changed on Wesley Ave. The other deeds that my husband's had for almost 80 years has 12 Morris Ave, 13 Wesley Ave. I didn't bring that with me because I didn't think it was necessary. But on the deeds prior to me purchasing half of it, they all had 12 Morris and 13 Wesley Ave.
Just for the record, could I get
Sure.
could I get your address, please, ma'am?
12 Morris Ave
Okay, thanks.
in Laconia.
Thanks.
I'm sorry.
That's
didn't I-
okay. I just want to make sure we know.
So I was totally surprised when they found out that it was Paper Street and then that George bought it. I was just curious of why wasn't I offered to buy it. The gentleman George bought it off of, he bought it in 2006, a Paper Street. Why couldn't anybody buy a Paper Street?
It was privately owned, it wasn't a city street. It was private land, it was never city street.
But it was Paper Street, correct?
So it was just private land.
Okay, so the gentleman in 2006 bought, he lived on Haines Street. He bought all the Wesley Ave from one end, from Fisk Street, all the way over to Allen. He bought the whole thing. Now he's splitting it all up, is what he's doing. But in the meantime, my issue is, since we've had the property over 100 years, why weren't we asked if we would like to buy this piece of property before George?
It was a private sale, I don't know why. I don't know what the details were.
And so you're the woman that I talked to the other day? Okay. Because you're the woman that turned around and told me to go for an easement and not to show up tonight.
Oh, I did not tell you not to show up tonight.
You turned around and told me, get the paperwork before so you don't have to show up at the meeting, is what you told
I
me.
said it would be helpful if you, as neighbors, worked it out so that at the meeting, there was a resolution.
And the other question I have for you is, why did you come out of your jurisdiction to call me at my home to have this done? You called me.
I did.
You called me on 4/11/70 at 3:20. You said, oh, there's an issue between 6 and 1 foot of porch, fence on Wesley Ave, now owned by George. Not a street. George hired a lawyer and land surveyor. You gave possible easement. Try to resolve before next meeting, is what you said to me.
Well, can that easement be resolved? I mean,
No, because I haven't read anything. So my question now is, could I have a chance now to go back to the people that I had their land surveyed in 1988? I don't have the paperwork right now with me. I know the, excuse me, I know the people's name, I know who it was, and when it was done, because we lifted up the house, put a foundation underneath.
so, what do you think that timeline would be? How long would it take to get that resolved?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
No, she's gonna ask you a question.
I'm not sure. Excuse me.
So that could be next year, the year after,
Oh, no.
next week?
Probably, and then within the next month, if I can get a hold of somebody, get hold of this person, the people that did it before, in 1988. If I can get them,
What happens if you can't get them?
Well, we
That-
can't get Mr. Mitchell.
Pardon me?
Mr. Mitchell's passed away.
but his
Get in touch with
associates,
him, yeah.
But Mr. Smith owns the business. He was here this evening. Stephen J. Smith owns that business.
so then maybe I can get a hold of him?
You can get a hold of any surveyor, and this points out my point earlier, Mr. Chairman, that this is a civil matter, and this is not something to which you, the board, and in all due respect here, you don't have the authority to...
We don't have the
adjudicate.
authority. And the point being, okay, that she was given feedback
Oh, yeah.
on how to help the situation.
We're willing to work
and
with them.
we
We're
just
not going
finished-
to argue with you or them, but we'll work...
Well, that's
with
what I'm
them.
saying, I'm not trying
She
to
was
argue
given-
here, because like I said,
Something that would help her.
I just received this across me less than 5 minutes
I'm trying
ago.
to sort this out as we speak, what this is all about.
Well, I can
Okay,
tell
and
you
I see,
what I
I
know.
see, okay, that, I'm not sure if we can get resolution tonight.
Mr. Chairman, let me try to give you some insight. She did only receive this document this evening, because it was only prepared yesterday. It really was. But Mr. Winchell is here with me this evening, and he has told me that he has been communicating back and forth for well over a week to try to come to a resolution, and he told me, and he's here to speak for himself, so I'm going to let him come up and tell you what he has done to make a resolution with this boundary line agreement and this encroachment, which is a matter of fact. It's got nothing to do with what we're doing here.
Gotcha.
It already exists.
I understand that.
Okay, thank you very much.
So, Mr. Sullivan, do you have any other input you want to give us?
No, I mean, he totally cut me off. I mean,
Well, now you can talk.
okay. What I'm saying is, now he says if George wants to come up and talk, that's fine. I have it written down, the dates and times when he called, because he called me on 410 and 105. I think we have a fix for it. Didn't know what it said, right? He called me on 410 at 5:20. It's 20 minutes to 6 at home now, give me a call. Then I got a call 411 at 3:20, call from Brandy Laughlin Planning Department. 6 to 1 foot of porch, fence on Wesley Ave now owned, blah, blah, blah. George hired a lawyer, landscaper, Brian Bailey, possible easement, try to resolve before next meeting. I called him back on 12/17 at 11 a.m. I told him I had a family matter, and I would call him on Monday, which was April 17th. Then he turns around and calls me back on Easter night. 16, yeah. Call from George Easter night, Sunday. I'll call you from work on Monday, 7/17, between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. You will see any XXX with the telephone number. I called George. He said something about easement, 6 to 8 inches porch out about a foot. Not saying to take down your white fence or your porch. My property was surveyed, or a rock on the front porch is the blue property. Personally, I asked him how he got my personal phone number at home in Revere. Unlisted, non-published. But anyways, he goes on. And, and then he tells me he wanted to let me know that Ryan, which lives in the Lisa, is thinking of buying the property, and then he's going to sell that part of Wesley Ave to Morris Ave to Lisa Trust when they buy it. So therefore, I don't even have a chance to get a piece of that to go out Morris Ave, right out of my backyard. The fence has been there, and we've been coming in and out for over, I've been married to him 42 years. He's been, 68. He's been coming here since he was born.
Okay, is that your input, Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Anybody else want to speak on the matter?
Mr. Chairman, committee, thank you. My name's George Winchell. I live at 60 East Road in Atkinson, New Hampshire, and I own property at 11 and 19 Thompson Ave. I purchased Wesley off of Peter Betcher last year, and just to go back in history, apparently that was owned by New Hampshire Timber, and he wanted to buy a portion of one of the streets up there, and he was told by the city he had to buy the whole thing, or, I'm sorry, by the owner of New Hampshire Timber, and again, I don't know who that was, that he had to buy all of that gentleman's property. That's how I got that property. So when we had it surveyed, I was notified that the fence and portion of the porch is on the property that I bought on Wesley, and I have no problem with that. I prepared an easement. Attorney Jeff Philpott. I picked it up today. I had to came up from work, so I picked up on my way, and I tried to give that to the Sullivans when I came in, and Rita Sullivan said, we have to talk. She wouldn't take it, so that's why I just handed it over when she said she never got a
That easement would
copy.
allow her to get in her vehicle and get in and out.
I'm sorry?
that easement would be what? What would it allow? Allow her to get in and out with her car or something like that? Is that what that would do? So,
Yeah, that's, I have no problem with that. And last year, I want to just clarify what was done last year. It was Labor Day weekend.
but the
I'm sorry?
easement you brought today, is that what it entails?
Is that
easement?
for the porch or for driving on the property?
Oh, it's the porch and the fence.
It's
Yeah,
nothing to
that's
do
the
with
only
driving.
thing that's on the
Which is
property.
the only thing staff
Right.
has had a concern about.
The driveway access is kind of perpetual problem up in that area for a lot of people.
She does have a lot that spans between two streets, so, I mean, there's other ways to access.
Yeah.
If I may just clarify what she made reference to last year, we had company coming up for a cookout, and their vehicle was parked angled into where they normally back into to get to their doorway through Wesley. They go up into the opening in the gate, and it was blocking the road. And I asked Mr. Sullivan if he could move it, back it up to the door where they normally put it, so I could get more cars in there. We only had my truck and 3 small cars. There were not 6 cars, and there was no way you could get 8 vehicles on that piece of property, on that land. And he just refused. So I had to put my truck kitty corner so that I could get 2 small cars towards Thompson Ave. So I just want to clarify that there were no 6 and possibly 8 vehicles going to be parked there. And if you look at, I should have given a copy from 1994, the or the Methodist Circle Campground, the property she's referencing on her, I guess it's the deed, it spells lots 8, 12, 8, 10, and 12, and I'm not sure about, there's another lot 2, but that's separate from Wesley. So I can give you copies of this if you need that. Wesley has always been a street, paper street maybe, but their property is not Wesley. That's the property that I bought.
Yeah, the reference in all the deeds goes back to a map that the Campground Association prepared way back at the beginning, and they identify all these lots by what they front on. It's not to say that there was a road there. There are many lots. That's just the identification number that's on those reference plans that are over at the registry.
So,
Yes. Counsel.
I just want to ask the question, because I'm a little confused. I think it's the planning director's recommendation that there be some kind of a resolution of this. And certainly, the planning board is not the place where you resolve this. And I don't, I'm speaking for me, and I don't mean this badly to the Sullivans or to you, but I'm not interested in the details of past agreements or disagreements between the parties. And so, why are we listening to this?
Well, what we normally do, and you know this, we are bound by law. So if the law says you can do something, and the staff tells us that can be done legally, then we're bound by law. What we try to do, in many times, is extend ourselves beyond that absolute approach to things. And you're right, we could take that approach, but if there's resolution, and everybody can walk off pretty happy, then I feel pretty good about that. But if there isn't, then we will default back to legal, what the law is, what we recommended this be approved, and that's what we will fall back on. But if there's some resolution and there's room for you people to work together, then I think that maybe that's a prudent way of going. That's my own personal feeling.
I totally agree, and I will tell you that I don't know what more can be shown to you to demonstrate our willingness to straighten out a civil matter between these two parties. Here's the man who owns the property, and he's going to do everything he can so that he doesn't have a problem in his neighborhood.
Right, and we're not, we're looking at it from technically the legal way of doing it, and you're within your legal rights.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing you are. So that's what really, that's our starting point for all intents and purposes.
I agree.
All this other stuff, Mr. Sullivan, I can empathize with you, and all the years you've owned the property, and and the issues behind it, and who hasn't talked to you, who sold this and that. And that's beyond our scope, for all intents and purposes. But I would suggest that if you can get resolution, that's the best path. And if he's willing to work with you now, I say, strike while the iron's hot.
Chance of having it surveyed again. Because from my understanding, this meeting tonight, he's going from Lakeside all the way up Thompson, the 2 houses that he owns, up to Wesley Ave. You understand where I'm coming from? My issue is, why can't I come from my property on Morris Ave, come down to Wesley, come down to Thompson, have the both sides done? Just because he did it, and I have to swear by Lakeside all the way up to Wesley Ave where he owns? I already had it surveyed in 1988. If I could find the people that give me that paperwork before, then I'll know what my property rights are. I don't want to sign this off and give my rights away when I've already done it before his, in 1988.
Again, I can understand where you're coming from. I get your feeling of what your apprehension is and all that, but we can't solve that here. This board does not do that.
We're not a court.
Well, can I postpone it to go and get?
No, that's before our board right now, and if there's no other public, input, I'll close the public hearing in about a minute. But at that point, this goes back to the planning director. I'll hear their recommendation again, and this board will vote on it. That's pretty much what it's
Well, I'd
on.
like to postpone it for right now till I read this.
I don't think it's within your realm, your right to do that, to be honest with you. It's not within your scope of right to do that.
But I just got it less than 10 minutes ago, and I didn't read it. I came up to the board.
She wouldn't take it, Mr. Chairman.
Well,
I don't think it really matters. I don't think the document has anything to
Came
do with
in
this.
and said hi, that was it. I got an easement, is what he said to me. Never gave me a piece of paper or anything.
All right, but if you didn't have that easement, it wouldn't make any difference right now, would it?
Well, now, this says quitclaim easement deed.
So,
I haven't read it. Don't I have due process to read it? It's due process of the law.
You should probably have your attorney review it with you.
Then I'm gonna have to postpone
But-
this now?
No. This is a completely different decision than what you're dealing with as far as your paperwork and your easement and your quitclaims go.
Okay.
So that's something you should, meet up with your attorney and resolve that. And, but this is a completely different item.
Okay,
These are two different items we're looking at here.
so,
So we're going to go ahead and make a decision on this tonight. It really doesn't affect what you currently have. What you currently have still has to be resolved.
okay,
So you should take the time, meet with your attorney, get this resolved between you two parties.
okay.
This, we're going to just go ahead and vote on. It really doesn't change anything at this point for you.
So as of tonight, do I still have a right to go in and out where I was before?
Just as much as you had before tonight.
Be careful what you say.
So that her
What she
access-
has been doing
Yeah.
and what she has been allowed to do by the property owner.
Okay, so that's what I was
That's all
saying. She didn't have the right to do it originally. So
But I didn't.
those
vote that.
boundaries are not being changed by a decision here tonight.
Correct.
And that's why this is a completely moot point.
Correct.
The only question that I had was from Mr. Winchell. When did you do your survey on this Wesley Avenue?
Right now.
Just today.
It's before you now, today.
Yeah, in the past couple months.
Thank you, just the last couple of months.
Okay.
Because that would be
just as a
looking
side-
at that line on both sides, so.
Seeing as though you asked, I did start that survey about 6 years ago, and it begins down at the boardwalk, and it goes up to Centenary Ave, and it goes to the railroad, and it goes up Foster, and it goes all the way down. It is not just centered on this one lot,
Right.
believe you me.
Yeah, so
It's a
this is,
very confusing, it's a confusing matter that has a significant amount of effort into it.
let's see.
Any more public input? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing, and the time being 8:05. Again, would you restate, the planning director, restate your position on this?
Well, before I get into the formal written recommendations, I wanted to be clear on the board's part that we are not dealing with driveway access or parking or anything of that. Whatever's been going on has been going on, and that needs to be resolved between the individual parties. Our only concern with this whole plan, and like I said before, in general, we are in favor of this plan. Our only concern with the plan is the 6 to 12 inches of the porch on the Sullivan building that is on, quote, Wesley Avenue, which is owned by the Winchells, and has been owned by the Winchells for a while. That has been our only concern, and as I said, our preference originally, when we talked with Mr. Bailey, was to do some type of a lot line adjustment, to just jog that lot line a couple of feet so that the porch and a little bit of access area is on the Sullivan property. And there was some reluctance apparently to do that. I don't know if that's still true or not. And then our fallback position would be some type of an easement so that they can get around and maintain their porch and their property.
In your mind, would be an acceptable?
An easement is acceptable. I think it's cleaner for everyone involved.
Gives them rights.
To have the property line adjustment, but that's not my decision.
And the definition is established as far as who can do what and whatever.
Right.
Okay.
And Dean, it also, I read that they're asking for a waiver for sidewalks?
No, that might be a mistake.
Okay, just asking.
Basically, the conditions that are there right now
Okay.
are basically the same. Nothing
Okay.
changes. I mean, the lot lines are being moved around, and as I said, every lot is non-conforming. Every lot will remain non-conforming. Every building on those lots are non-conforming. They will remain non-conforming. I mean, it is what it is.
But there'll be less non-conforming.
There'll be less non-conforming to some
Just
degree.
inches forward a little bit, okay. Okay, anybody from the board, any input at all? Okay.
So you have our written conditions and
Sal, the chair will entertain a motion to approve with the...
I want to move to table.
You want to table this?
I do. 'Cause this is a hornet's nest. It's not our hornet's nest, but if we table it for 30 days, they may reach some kind of a resolution. We can get some clarity with what's going on, so I just want to move to table this until the next regularly scheduled meeting of the planning board in June.
Do we have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Just make it continued as a continuation table.
Yeah, okay.
We'll call it a continuation instead of a, okay. And what's the impact on anybody, all of them?
We're going to continue to make as much headway as we can.
All right, Mr. Sullivan, I mean, you heard that, and we're allowing a continuation till next month.
That's fine.
Hopefully you can sit down and have a good cup of coffee with something in it maybe, I don't know, and you got the whole
So
thing.
we call it a continuance, then we don't have to take it off the table in the next meeting? It's just there.
All right, okay, hopefully we can, hopefully this works out, really do. I mean, it's tight quarters down there, we all understand that.
Thank you
But
very
everybody
much.
has to be willing to cooperate. Thank you.
We've got a motion. and
You got to vote.
seconded.
So we have a continuation,
All those in favor?
all in those favor? All right,
To continue.
okay.
Yes.
Any input, any conversation on it? Okay.
Just a question. Let's say this boundary, you had a concern over this. What if that never got resolved? How would that impact a vote on something like that? Because it really still has nothing to do with the property. It's not a change of boundary.
Our position was that we were not going to recommend approval unless this had been resolved one of the two ways.
And, it's in the power of the one applicant, all the applicants that are here, the owner of the land, to do his own boundary line adjustment. He doesn't need permission from anybody to do that adjustment, and he can resolve it that way. So at least that's my take on it.
But question, but Mrs. Sullivan may come back next month with a survey of her own, which would indicate that
But
there's a question.
we're not,
We can't look at a survey and decide who owns
No, I know,
what.
but when we're voting on something, we want to make sure we're voting on an accurate vote, on
Yeah.
accurate data.
Boy, you know.
That's all I'm saying.
Well, what we're voting on is in fact, it's accurate to what you said earlier, and has it been resolved with between the parties? Who knows?
That to me is their problem.
So, I mean, hopefully just make sure I feel a little bit better about things, and wish you wanted more time, and we gave, she
And
gave
I
a
was
month,
very happy with the votes.
and hopefully that's a resolution. That gives her time to think it through. I think some of the issues, we gotta think it through a little bit and, you know,
So-
weigh everything out.
For information, it could be that before we ever get any headway on a project like this, you wait for a court to finally decide. That's the end result, correct? I mean, if no one can come to an agreement and it goes to that matter,
If it comes down to the fact that you have dueling surveys, so to speak, then it goes to court. It's not for us to
Right, that's
decide
what I'm
in
saying.
any way, shape, or form.
So for you to actually recommend it,
Right.
that has to be resolved.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where I was going with my question.
Or an easement.
That to me would be a resolution, though.
Well,
correct?
absolutely. But the easement does not involve surveys.
You should keep that one.
I never did.
Keep the big poster.
Our next one up is Provincial Road.
Let's
Proposing
go.
as a city street. This hasn't been accepted before. Need a motion to, is the application complete?
Ready to go.
Ready to go. Okay, so I need a motion to accept the application.
So moved. Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
Well, and second, any discussion? Okay, it's been accepted. All right, I guess we have, hey, John.
Hey.
Give it a go.
You have to take a vote on the application
Okay,
acceptance.
yeah, I know it. Okay.
You don't
All
want
in
to vote on
favor?
anything.
All in favor?
Skip the
Please
vote.
vote on it. Yes. All the yeses, raise your hand. You guys voting on it down here?
We're not paying any attention.
Just not.
It's hard to hear you. I'm sorry.
Are you voting on the acceptance of the application, Mike? Charlie?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Just accepting this.
we don't know whether it was a no or, okay, then it's been accepted. Okay, go ahead. Shoot.
Waiting for the gavel, sorry.
No, I don't give the gavel. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, John Roque, with Roque Consulting. I'm here on behalf of WD Development this evening for the acceptance of Provincial Road. We've been, Steve Smith has been the surveyor of record on the project all along, and he has, with Luke Powell, prepared the, basically the right-of-way plan that's in front of you this evening for the acceptance of Provincial Road. And we went through the TRC process, and basically everything is taken care of. DPW is completely happy with it. The road has been inspected during the construction process and was completely signed off on by everybody. I think it's ready for a recommendation from you guys for us to go to City Council. It's actually a pretty straightforward one, hopefully, for this evening.
Staff?
All city departments have reviewed, everybody's good to go.
Everybody's good to go? Okay.
Yep. We just have the condition that the final plans need to be submitted, and then your recommendation would be to accept it and send it off to the city council.
Any public input? Yes.
Excuse me, my name is Mark Marsky, and I own the corner of Mile Hill Road and the beginning of Provincial Road. And they put in a new sidewalk coming up and a hydrant where I used to get my wood, and I can't access my property. But anyway, I'm wondering if this is accepted, and they put in curbs and a sidewalk, what used to be a rural dirt road. Am I, as in a butter to the sidewalk, obliged to do anything like snow clearance and things of that sort? Because it's a long stretch, and it's nothing that's going to serve me. From the corner, it used to be a dirt road, and I want to know if I'm going to be subsidizing this development with increased taxes, and also if I'm going to have if I'm going to be required to maintain snow clearance of a public street, sidewalk, something of that sort. 'Cause it's a long, long, long stretch where it used to be something rural. I'm ignorant, so I'm just asking what this means.
Okay. I don't believe you're responsible for public, for that.
Once the city accepts that, it'll be city property, the city will maintain it.
So I don't have to buy a snow machine or something? Okay. and-
No, it'll be business as usual.
Okay.
Just the same old, same old.
Okay, thank you. I didn't want to have an increase in taxes or an obligation. So, thank you very much.
Any more public input? Yes.
I just want to see the names. I'm Clay Dunn, 21 Provincial. If you could do me a favor, don't mix me up with Cal Dunn. Charlie and David. Okay. I think I only know Charlie and David. City regulations, minimum width standards in City of Laconia is 24 feet wide. I'm not sure why this road is 22 feet wide. The other thing I'd like to mention is taxpayer of City of Laconia for 40 years, and I'm not a complainer. The only thing I ever complain about is the recycle every 2 weeks. I have 5 bags of recycle and 1 bag of garbage. I haven't figured that out yet. My tenants don't know which week it was. They barely know when Thanksgiving is and whatnot, but I just want to make a point that I'm not a complainer. So we got a 22-foot wide road, beautiful job paving the road and granite curb, except it's like, what good is it if it's kind of narrow? I have to go into the other lane to get into my property. They were nice enough to pull a 8-foot section of granite curbing out. I had an 18-foot wide entrance, which you have a driveway, say 12 feet wide, you should have a 10-foot entrance on each end, 32 feet wide. So we got a 22-foot wide road. I don't know if we got a waiver or if somebody missed something. If you go to the planning board and you do an apartment or you're doing a subdivision, anything, it's a minimum standard of 24 feet wide. You're trapped in on both sides with granite curbing. And the other thing is we have a 5-foot sidewalk with a 1-to-1 slope that goes down to the ditch line. I mean, it's pretty dangerous. It just, I hate the poor engineering. I mean, very poor. And somebody missed the ball here. I don't know if they got waivers. And the saddest part is the westerly side of the road, there's 10 or 15 extra feet that they grassed all in and loamed in, where the road could have been wider. The sidewalk should have been on the other side of the road. I'm sure somebody will say that the sun doesn't shine enough over there or something. And the other thing, this is all memory, we don't have a 3-foot grass strip between the curb and the 5-foot sidewalk. I got no place to put a mailbox. I got Ann, wonderful lady, calling me about, I just spent $1,800 on 27 garbage cans at Home Depot with the special lids on them so the tenants keep the garbage in, all recycle ones. The ones I used to give away are useless. You get a gallon of milk in it and that's about it. So we got all some nice garbage cans, but now we got no place to put the garbage cans. We got a 5-foot sidewalk with no grass area, no grass strip, no place to put a mailbox, no place to put a garbage can, and we got a 22-foot wide road boxed in with beautiful granite curb on each side. And again, the saddest part of the whole story is we've got 10 to 12 feet extra on the other side that the road could have been, widened on the other side. Obviously, you're not going to spend $200,000, change the road and do it the way it should have been done, and move the drainage and move the road to a 24-foot wide road with a grass strip. You could take the sidewalk out, the 5-foot sidewalk, instead of having a 1-to-1 slope into the ditch line. You could have a 3-foot grass strip. That would give you 2 extra feet to have a 3-to-1 slope so that a kid doesn't trip and fall on the bottom of the ditch on those ledge rocks and crack his head open, and put the sidewalk on the other side of the street where it should have been to begin with. So I don't know if somebody's going to write me a letter, if we have answers for me tonight or whatnot, but no idea why they wouldn't have taken, there's plenty of, the property line is by Mile Hill Apartments, there's 20 feet extra on that side of the road. It's all level ground. They just grassed it in and hydroseeded it. Don't know why we're boxed in. I hate to seem ungrateful for a nice new paved road, but to do this properly, it was probably a $200,000 job. To do this properly would have cost $202,000, maybe another $1,500 for 2 feet wide of asphalt, and you would have had the same amount of asphalt, and you would have had the same amount of loam, just you wouldn't have a 12-foot grass loam section on the westerly side of the road. You would have had it on the grass strip where it should have been. So, again, point being, 40-year taxpayer, not down here every week complaining. Just don't know how in the world somebody could miss such a simple project like this between the engineering, the planning board, or the Department of Public Works. Do I wait here for any questions, or do I go sit down?
I have a question. Were you ever approached by anybody when all this was happening, or did you have a chance to tell anybody from Public Works or anybody else to say, hey, you guys are kind of making maybe a mistake?
Great question, Charlie. Unfortunately, I didn't know till it was all done. You know, they're a year doing drainage and the infrastructure and whatnot, and the paving takes 4 hours.
When did they do this?
They did it last summer, last July. They did the base coat in November of 2015, and then the finish coat in 2016, last July. Great job on the granite curb. There's a couple of curb that are popping out. I think the city snow plow, the sidewalk plow, when they go around the corner, might have popped it out on the southerly end, which is the hillside. If you're turning left going to Belmont, there's a couple of curbings that have popped out, and there's some drainage issues, but such a simple one to have a proper 24-foot wide road with a 3-foot grass strip. And it's already narrow, and it gets narrower in the wintertime. You've got a 5-foot sidewalk with a 6-inch wide granite curb, and then you've got the street. There's no place to put the snow. So now you've got a 22-foot road that goes down to 20 feet. I can't figure it out. Any other questions?
Who did the, well...
I was just going to say, who would have approved the waiver of 22 feet versus 24 feet?
So my understanding, I don't have a full file or history in front of me, and I can get the actual facts, but my best understanding is that this road has existed for a while. The city thought it was already a city street for a while. And my best guess is, and I could be wrong, John, it was the right-of-way just not large enough for a full, I mean, Luke's comments didn't say anything about it not meeting the standards. So I really can't speak to that. But it's kind of like a funky situation because it wasn't a brand-new road that someone put in. I mean, they totally redid it. I'm not, you know.
They didn't redo it. It's been gravel forever.
Yeah, okay.
So, and I'm going to say 70. You can correct me. There might be 60. There might be 80. There's 70 units down the end of the road. 2 buildings, 70 units, 80 units. That's 160 cars on that road. You know, you've got Beaman Street with 14 houses, 7 on each side or 9 on each side with a 24-foot road. And this whole thing about it was there or whatnot, when you do something, you do it and you meet city regulations. You could have asked anything out of the developer. And I like developers, you know, I'm a developer. But you could have asked anything out of the developer. They would have gold-plated it if that's what you wanted. But 24 feet is your minimum regulations with a 3-foot grass strip. I mean, there's no place for snow. Ann Dearborn's going to be calling me, asking me, you know, the garbage can's in the street, the city sidewalk, tipped it over, it's in the street. I'll go spend $85 for another garbage can, you know.
You know that we can't do anything about this. You know that we can't do it.
I just said you weren't going to spend $200,000 to redo the road.
This is the planning board.
I'm here because I got a notice to come talk, so I have to start somewhere.
I'm not telling you to stop.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm listening to you with some sympathy and understanding of what situation you're in. But what I'm saying is, we can't really do anything about this at the planning board level. This is a city council or Department of Public Works issue. That's where it is.
I tried to make a point, and I agree with you, but the city council and the planning board, the most that they're going to do is hire a consultant and pay a consultant $10,000 so that it looks like nobody did anything wrong at the department levels with the city. And I mean that sincerely. I don't mean to be sarcastic, but we're not going to be ripping out roads. We're not going to be changing roads. We're not. I mean, you could move the sidewalk on the other side and put a grass strip there, which is $15,000 or $18,000 rather than $180,000. I don't expect you to do that. So the most the city's going to do is hire a consultant and say, hey, give us some information that we can put in the paper that makes it sound like, okay, we didn't have the right of way, or it was better than it was before, or something. So I think any other questions?
What do you want?
Well, it'd be nice for it not to happen again.
I understand.
And I can't understand how...
Do you want us not to accept it as a city street?
Well, maybe we should table it so we can get some answers. There is some curbing tipping over and whatnot, and we should take a look at it. You know, I got the notice a couple of weeks ago. So I'd like some answers why it was a 22-foot road when the regulations are 24 feet.
Good question.
And I think we need some answers to a few things.
Is this one of these roads that was on DPW's list to make them accepted roads, that have been out there for a while? Is this one of those?
Like I said, the only recollection I have, and I mean, it does make sense to get some answers, from DPW.
Right.
The only recollection I have is that we thought it was a city road for a very long time, and only recently did they realize
It's
it
been like
wasn't.
30 years or something.
But I don't have any records or files in front of me, so that's
John, you
just.
have any input on that?
I can try to give you some background on it. If you
Simple
remember...
application, huh?
What's that?
Simple application, huh?
Yeah, no, that didn't happen. That's fine. If you remember this, Phil Burliard was working on this for years and years and years, before Double D ever got involved. And it was approved back, I think it was 2005 or 6 or something like that, and it was a Holden engineering plan. And the way that it's approved and built is according to the 2005 approval. If you recall, when Dick Anignos came in, we were trying to go back to more of a rural road. Like, we came before you guys and we said that we shouldn't be doing all this curb and gutter. We should be doing this as a rural road with regular ditches. And we were told that no, it's going to be the way the plan was shown. It has to have the drainage. It has to have the sidewalk. It has to have the curb and gutter. It has to have everything. So we were basically told at that point that was 2012 or something like that if you want to go forward with the project, you're building it according to the original plan. I have absolutely no idea what happened in 2005, how the approval was done with the Holden engineering plan, but that was exactly what was on that plan. It was approved through the planning board. It was given a state of New Hampshire approvals. That was the way it was put together when we took over it.
Approve it as just a road, or amongst other things that was...
Well, it was a site plan and the road,
okay,
yeah.
right.
It was a site plan approval for the entire project, but that was the way we took it over, and we tried to change it to something different, which would have been more in line with what he's talking about, but it was mandated to us that it needed to be the way it is, so.
And DPW recommends us to accept this road.
Yep.
It was mandated to you by,
The planning board.
to accept it, to do it.
No,
the way
to do it according to the original plan with the sidewalk and the curb and gutter and
The
closed
22 feet
drainage.
versus 24 feet?
There was really no discussion about the width. We could have changed it at that point, because we were trying to change the whole thing at that
Don't we
point.
always think that it's going to if it's going to be a city street and it's being built, it will be 24 feet?
Well, I was just going to get into that,
I don't
because
know.
there's
That's the
a,
question Randy's talking about
there's
answering.
an
so we
acceptance,
don't know.
there's an
The
acceptance
standards would have been
checkoff
different, so I
list
guess I had no idea.
that we asked for, this board asked for,
Okay.
when someone else wanted a road approved. And that checkoff list covers those things, covers, making sure that it's got the right thickness to it, it's the right width, all that kind of stuff. So the assumption, okay, which might be wrong, is that would have a 24-foot width and would meet all the criteria that any Department of Public Works would recommend to us to accept this road. So I think that we need some scratching of the surface here a little bit. I mean, it doesn't make sense that we hold everybody to one standard. Any developer wants to put in a road, or wants us to accept a road down the work state that we would require 24-foot width. Now, why we would say something else is beyond me. Yes.
Bill, the question I have is, the gentleman that spoke before John said that the curbstones are tipped up, and if people are walking along there, they can fall and hurt themselves, especially if all those units are down the end of the street. So that's something we should bring up before we vote on it, I think.
Well, the thing is, I think we have to understand why we're voting on this, why we're voting on it at 22 feet.
I don't know what the standards were in 2005.
Well, the thing is, it's, as long as I can remember, that's the standard that we've had in this city, right?
Yeah.
24 foot, I mean, that's all I remember.
This had to come through a separate application. There's no, the 2005 application, if it wasn't acted on and you took it over, that would have lapsed. You would have had to come in with a different application, a new application, or an updated application.
No, it was continued over and over and over. It was an active approval since 2005.
Did the road width standards change?
I honestly don't know.
So can we continue this until we get the answers on this
Because if they didn't
question?
change, they were 24 feet in 2005, and if they were 24 feet in 2005, they should have been 24 feet when you built it.
I mean, generally, this could be a complete oversight. We just don't know. So let's
Yeah, so-
continue this,
Continue it.
and then we'll find out.
Continue this and figure out what's going on.
Correct.
I move,
Did I just say something for the record?
Sure.
I don't think we want to change the road. You'd have to change the drainage. It should be 24 feet wide. But what would get 70 or 80% of the problem solved is if you took the sidewalk and put it on the other side of the street, you would have and then you do what you want. I just want to make a recommendation, and then we just forget about it.
Okay.
So you take the little sidewalk, you put it on the other side of the street where you've got 10 or 12 feet of perfect area for a sidewalk, and you put a 3-foot grass strip there, and you have 2 feet left over, which allows you to go to a 3-to-1 slope on the ditch, which takes the danger away from the public walking along the edge of the sidewalk. When you're walking around, this is a 1-to-1 ditch. The sidewalk is right here, 5 feet. There's a 1-to-1 ditch into the sidewalk. If you get rid of it, and now you can go with a 3-to-1. You'll have a 3-foot grass area, you take a couple of that extra feet, and you use it for the slope. And I'd like to say, Luke Powell helped me with getting one of the granite curbs moved, and he does a great job. I think the city's lucky to have him. And I don't know if the planning board missed something, not the planning board, but somebody missed something somewhere. And I appreciate it if you could table it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes.
I spoke earlier. By the way, the job that was done really beautifully well. But when I was saying, as it goes along my property, the gentleman who just spoke suggested moving the sidewalk to the other side of the street. I think that's not a bad idea. And also, where I accessed my lower part of my property, take my cordwood out. I spoke to the people that were doing the construction at the time, and they made sure to leave a wide break in the stone wall so I could get my vehicle in and out. And I show up one day and there's a fire hydrant right in the middle of it. So I can't access the property. I can't get my cordwood out. Beautiful job, though.
Is that curb to curb? Is that curb to curb, or is it like concrete to concrete at 22 feet?
Curb to curb, inside,
Curb to curb, okay.
full width, 21 feet, 11 1/2 inches in 4 different spots. What this gentleman's talking about is on the high side, which would be the south side of the road, there's a catch basin. There's a catch basin right here, and everything slopes down here. There's no water that goes in the catch basin. So they put a little ditch here for the road coming from Belmont that comes down, and they put a culvert pipe there, which then goes into this ditch that I'm talking about, that's a one-to-one from the sidewalk. It was just a mistake. They had the catch basin in the wrong place. It was on the high side. It should have either been here on the low corner, or it should have been on the other side of the sidewalk where they put a culvert pipe in to try and catch all the water coming from Belmont.
Thank you. So do we have bond money on that, on this property, on this road?
Yeah.
We should have bond money. Well, we may not have a bond, but I mean, we have the money from the bank.
I
all back. We have nothing left for them.
Yeah. it's all
Okay.
done.
No.
Nope.
No
we
escrow
don't.
money.
We were, everyone on the city staff, all departments, believed we were at the point where it was done and ready for acceptance. So all the escrow money has been returned. It's done.
Okay, well,
Okay.
another bag of worms, huh? Okay.
Motion to continue.
Second.
Any other more discussion? Seconded? And discussion? Okay, can we add that to the list? What would be the checkoff list on acceptance of roads that go forward to the city? Any group of the city? I know last year we had an issue with someone's road, and actually 2 roads are coming in for acceptance, and one was going to be accepted and the other we weren't sure of. So someone put a list together, a checkoff list, whether it be safety or fencing or erosion, road width, all that kind of stuff. And I believe, and I'm not sure they're adhering to this, but I think the department should be adhering to that checkoff list. And if they recommend something, I think that checkoff list is their backup. So if we could find that, okay, I'll get some evidence of that. That would be good also. So can we have a vote on this? We're going to postpone this?
Yeah, we've made a motion, second.
Now I want to vote on it, okay. That was discussion, now we're voting, okay. And what are you going to do? Going to vote?
Sure.
Okay, then we'll call the vote, okay.
All in favor?
Okay, call the vote.
You're the chairman, Darren.
Okay.
I think what he's saying is all in favor.
All in favor?
Okay.
All opposed? Bastard.
Stormwater.
That was the easy one.
There you go.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, John, when you give a difficult one, don't show up. Here we go.
Were we in favor of accepting or tabling?
It was tabled.
It's continuing.
You did.
Continuance.
Continuance.
You should not accept
We should,
a road that is not up to standard, because it will look stupid.
My turn.
unless it's snacks or something. When it was originally approved, it was 22 feet.
That's right. The other piece of it, don't give money back.
Curbs will be,
Same with our public hearings. Again, we have one, this is the
Curbs the width.
stormwater infrastructure for boat storage, and
Where's this going?
this application, is this in order? Everything in order?
It is complete and ready for acceptance.
Okay, so can I have a motion to accept this applicant?
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Um,
Okay.
Vote.
So will the applicant present?
What you want, brother?
Ready to go? Okay. I'm Bruce Wright from Irwin Marine, and with me this evening is Nick Schedule from Du Bois and King. I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of the project, and we'll let Nick handle the technical aspects. We're here for a site plan approval for boat storage. The primary boat storage area actually is in Guilford. The property straddles both the town of Guilford and the city of Laconia. And we also are looking for a conditional use permit relative to some activity the project has going on in and around wetlands. So the property's on Blaisdell Avenue. We recently completed a 8,100 square foot boat repair building there, and this project basically builds out the site, again, mostly on the Guilford side, for additional boat storage area. We have been to the Guilford Planning Board and have received their approval already for the project. It's essentially a revision, too, of a previously approved plan I think we had done in the mid-2000s, but it has changed some, and hence we're back here for a new approval. We're going before a number of boards. We actually had a site walk this evening with the Guilford Conservation Commission and the Laconia Conservation Commission right about the time that big downpour came through, and we were at the furthest reaches of the property, so we
didn't see any salamanders, did you?
We were looking for the owls or something out there, I think, too, but we didn't see any. So we're also got a number of approvals we need for the project. So again, we're working with those conservation commissions because we have a DES wetlands approval. We've also met with the Army Corps of Engineers, the EPA, and mitigation team for wetlands. And part of the proposal includes some restoration of Black Brook wetlands. And we were able to convince the people in Concord that that money, rather than paying into a fund, would be better spent right here in Laconia and Guilford to try to improve some of the issues that we have with the Black Brook watershed, and that's part of the plan that you'll see this evening. The project allows for continued growth of our business, Irwin Marine, close to our main location on Union Avenue, and actually relieves some of the burden and the overload, if you will, on that Union Avenue facility. We did have on the plan, I think we've removed them now because it seemed to create some confusion. There is potential that a couple of buildings would be put on this site. We showed them as potential future. That confused some people, so we took them off, but I do, we want to let you know that there could be buildings added, future approval, something we'd have to come back for. We're working very closely with wetlands specialist and an engineering team. We do understand there are some concerns as we go to build this out in the area we're working in, and we're being very careful that everything we do allows, careful scheduling, stormwater runoff maintenance, slope stability, and all those factors as a critical element of the construction process. We're not just going to go in there and tear the place apart. We all know what's happened at another project in that area, and we're committed to not have anything like that ever repeat itself. Beyond that, we do, and I have a letter here from Spinnaker Cove Yacht Club, and they support the project and the wetlands mitigation, and they've been most adversely affected from some things that have happened in that Black Brook watershed in the past. So with that, I'll turn it over to Nick to...
I have a quick question for you.
Sure.
The two buildings that you're potentially adding, are they both in Laconia, or?
The buildings would be in Guilford.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that in addition to the buildings you already have there, Guilford, the ones behind CVS? Going like that?
Those are actually in Laconia.
Okay. All right.
It's
confusing when you pull in there and you see those buildings.
Yeah, actually, if you, the Guilford-Laconia line, if you were to drive down Blaisdell and you just visualize continuing straight ahead, that's pretty much the town line. So the project, the area being developed primarily is to to the left of that line, which would be in Guilford looking into the site. But we do have impacts in Laconia, which is on the right side of that line. But the buildings that are there now are totally in Laconia.
Thank you.
Is that at the end of that road now? Get me oriented correctly?
Sure.
From McIntyre, you go right to straight back, straight back.
Yeah.
Nick Schedule from DuBois and King. This is an aerial photo. This is the site where we'll be storing boats. This is an old plan, still has a couple of those buildings that are not part of the application. Ignore those. This is the Lowe's. The photograph is a little bit dated. This is the new maintenance facility that was built last year that we were here before the planning board. This is an existing storage building, and you can see where they're already storing some boats as part of a previous approval. This is the CVS here, this is Lakeshore Ave, and this is Union Ave right here. Back to McDonald's? This is Vincent DePaul, right here.
What's that? Oh, it's okay. Where's the old,
so this is the old Grossman's
yeah, okay.
foundation built.
Okay, and where's Black Brook?
Black Brook, so Black Brook, you can see it here.
Yep.
It travels underground through a culvert.
Right.
Essentially from this location, it daylights here for a...
So that comes off of Walmart and all those
over
people,
here,
right?
goes underneath Blaisdell Avenue right here.
Okay.
And then this is Black Brook here.
Okay.
And the old rail lines right there.
And you can see this is the portion of Black Brook that you see when you're on Union Avenue.
So where's the piece that's 200 feet away from Blackbrook? It was here.
So our project is, our parcel, Black Brook forms part of the boundary for the parcel.
Oh, okay.
And our project includes work to do wetlands enhancements and wetlands restoration work, and then also a stream restoration project to address some stream instability on one of the tributaries to Black Brook. And then within Laconia, we have our stormwater management facility. It's called a stormwater gravel wetland. So it's a planted stormwater pond that provides detention and treatment. And then this is kind of our access road. It's a 26-foot wide access road up to the site. The right-of-way actually ends back. The right-of-way ends right in this area here. So Blaisdell Avenue right-of-way ends here. There's an easement for a turnaround for Guilford, who maintains the road. And then from this point forward, it's a private driveway. The project includes extending, what we did for the previous phase was extending utilities, water, sewer, gas, underground electric and communications to a certain point. We'll pick that up and we'll extend those back up to the pad site. What we have is a kind of a sloping parcel. Everything slopes towards Black Brook. We're going to be cutting into that slope at the top of it, creating a flat area with stormwater catch basins that would collect runoff from that flat gravel or impervious area, and then direct it, and then we'd have a fill slope that would come back down to existing grade, and then our stormwater wetland, and then we'd have an access way to get to that stormwater wetland so that we can provide maintenance for it. We are addressing pre and post or post-development runoff. We're meeting the requirements for post-development runoff by matching the pre-development runoff rates and volumes. We are providing treatment as is required, and we're doing, and as we talked about, we're doing some filling of existing wetlands, mostly within Guilford. I think there's 100 or so square feet of wetlands that gets impacted in Laconia, and then so a total impact of 24,065 square feet of wetlands impacts, which is requiring us to do the mitigation. As Bruce mentioned, we don't want that mitigation money to go outside of our watershed. We want it to be applied, we want the mitigation to be applied right to this site, because that's the point of mitigation, is to address what we're impacting. So that'll be 24,680 square foot area of existing. It's an old. These are sawdust piles that are out there, and the sawdust piles were created many years ago. They started out 40, 50 feet high. Over time, they've deteriorated. Right now, they're essentially a flat area with very little vegetation growing in it, just because of the whatever's in that sawdust is preventing vegetation from growing. So we want to. Our plan is to remove that sawdust, remove it from the site, and then reestablish elevations for wetlands, getting groundwater table to the proper elevation for wetlands vegetation and species to thrive, and then bringing in the topsoil that just allows it to the media for it to grow.
How much of that sawdust is getting into the brook? Do you know if you?
Well, some. I can't quantify it, but this brook, one of the reasons we've identified this as a stream restoration is because of what's happening with that stream now. It's unstable. The amount of slope that it has is causing it to head cut upstream, which is causing sediment to be transported within the stream and moves downstream and eventually ends up in Paugus Bay or Spinnaker Cove. Same thing. The stream has, in the last 15 years, 10 to 15 years, it has jumped its bank and created new channel through some of that sawdust area. So some of that sawdust inevitably has been transported into Black Brook and potentially to the lake. What we will do as part of the stream restoration is doing some cross veins with logs, which stabilize the channel and help it direct it. We want to meander it a little bit more, which gives more length to the stream so that it will have less slope, by essentially starting at the same starting and ending at the same elevations as it exists today, but just taking that path a little longer will give it a little bit more stability. We're going to try and walk that in as we go upstream. It gets steeper. We're going to lock that in with some rock cross veins, which are a little bit more armored than the log cross veins. So that we really want to try and stabilize that as far upstream as we can. We can't go too far upstream because we eventually are outside of our property. Drainage, we've got catch basins on the site. We have we did increase the sumps on those catch basins so that we could collect a little bit more sediment before it gets down into our stormwater pond. Those are 3-foot sumps instead of our standard 2-foot sumps that we would use. Those all collect into a network that eventually discharges into this gravel wetland. It's a stormwater pond. It's planted with wetland species. It has a forebay. The forebay is a settling area for the sediments that do get there to settle out before they are water then goes over the spillway into 2 cells. It's a 2-cell system. The way treatment happens, it actually happens underground, and why they call it a gravel wetland is the gravel is a gravel media that's below grade, and it's about 24 to 30 inches thick or deep, and water will travel through perforated pipe into the ground. These riser pipes that are in the pond, water gets introduced into those pipes, goes into the ground, and then it travels horizontally through that gravel media, which gives it treatment. It'll then come to a header pipe, and then travels through the slope, through this embankment, piped through the embankment, and then it does the same thing in the second cell. The gravel wetland is one of the strategies that UNH Stormwater Center is keen on as far as providing the best treatment, or as you know, what we would say, I guess, state-of-the-art treatment for stormwater.
So is there maintenance,
Yes.
is
So
there maintenance protocol with
Yep.
those systems?
yes, we
Okay.
did develop a inspection and maintenance plan.
Okay.
I don't remember if it was part of the application or not, but I can review it just to give you some highlights on it.
I don't think so, but it was a condition or one of the
Yeah, I think it came after the
after.
TRC.
Yes.
So just quickly tell me what
Part of
that's
the
all about.
AOT.
What is your roughly your plan? How often are you going to go back in there? And
So, we developed an overall site operation and maintenance plan. So, roadways would get swept twice a year, spring and the fall. The gravel wetlands, it gets periodic, at least twice a year inspection. You want to make sure that the items are performing as they're intended. We remove obstructions to flow, address any vegetation that's having issues surviving. So if vegetation needs to be removed and replanted, that happens. We inspect catch basins, sumps to see how much is accumulated in them. And then what we would have on the forebay where we are intentionally trying to settle sediment there, we're going to have a marker rod that would indicate at what point it's necessary to come into that forebay and remove sediment that's accumulated so that
what would that marker rod be set at?
we have it identified as 10 centimeters. I think that was a recommendation based on looking at the specifications for it from UNH Stormwater Center. So not sure why exactly we went with a metric system there.
Is that the magic number?
Yeah.
So we do have a copy in our file. We got it as part of the AOT permit last week.
Yeah. So, and then, in addition to the inspection and maintenance that has to occur for the facility and its stormwater infrastructure, there's additional monitoring that occurs with wetland mitigation. So as part of the wetlands permitting and the approval of mitigation for the site, there'll be requirements on inspecting those areas that we're trying to establish wetlands to make sure that what we're proposing to do, we in fact are doing.
Do you know how far down that sawdust goes? How deep?
I do.
3 to 4.
Yeah, I think it was somewhere around 30 inches. We did some test pits out there, and
It's really the last of it. A lot of it was
varies.
removed.
It's 0 to 4 inches. 0 to 2, 0 to 2. I thought we were much deeper. Yeah, I mean, I think it varies between a foot in places to as much as 3 feet in places, so.
Did you get down to Spinnaker Cove and see where the outlet on the stream is? Has that been changed at all? Not that you're responsible for it, but they had a problem about, 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think we recognize the Spinnaker Cove is I guess they're not identified as a butter, but they are very much impacted by what comes down Black Brook.
Exactly.
Our plan for the site is to not impact at all Black Brook or not impact.
I understand that, but I was just, as an FYI, that you get out to their site and see what comes out. Is there anything in there that gets sawdust and all that?
No, I
No, you haven't.
haven't.
Okay, just thought I'd ask. Okay.
That's my question. Where did all that sawdust come from?
Yeah, what, Grossman's?
I can, it was,
Grossman's.
well, no, prior to that, a lot of it goes back to the hurricane of '38, when there was huge blowdowns in the area. Logs were brought there, we have pictures showing the area as fields, full of logs, and basically through that Spinnaker Cove property is where all that came, and then there was milling done back there, and then Covecraft was there, crutch manufacturer, Northland made skis there. So there's always been wood milling operations on that property going back, into the 1930s, and this was where they dumped it, and undoubtedly they dumped some of it in the wetlands because it was a good place to get rid of it. I mean, there were mountains of it. A lot of it was hauled away prior to our purchasing the property in 2004. So maybe the late 1990s, a lot of that material was trucked away. But I think they stopped when they got to the point where they would now be getting to the wetland impact and
Yeah, they didn't want to
quit
get into
at
the
that point,
groundwater, I
so.
think. So they flattened it out.
Yeah.
That's good.
I know you did the walkabout today with the conservation groups. Did they give you any verbal feedback? I mean, the stormwater seems to be very well managed, but I'm wondering about the rest of the impact.
I think, well, we've been before the Guilford Conservation Commission, and then we did the walkthrough, and we actually have, the rest of the team is at the Guilford Conservation meeting tonight. We're coming to Laconia tomorrow. The inputs have been primarily along the lines of plantings
Yeah, I think there
and
was
some things like that.
comments about variety of plantings, some pollinator type material. I think we
Right.
addressed that as far as what we put into our stabilization mix. We'll have our wetland scientist said clover, which I assume is a pollinator,
We're also,
I'm a civil engineer.
the other things that came up tonight, and it's part of the project, is, that, there are some invasive species out there. Those will all be properly removed and disposed of properly, because we need to be sure that that stuff doesn't get into the wetlands. And even the wetland scientist tonight was talking about, when we pull that sawdust out, there could be seeds and other things in that, and we want to be sure that we get that out of there and that it's properly disposed of. So there's a whole lot going on the wetland side, and hopefully we can leave that to the two conservation commissions and the scrutiny we're going to get at the state level to kind of deal with that piece, because we're under the microscope with them.
When you pull that sawdust out, do you have a drying process that, I know when you dredge ponds and stuff like that, you just can't move it along. You have to let it sit there, and has a drying out period. And
I think everything certainly will be screened, and there will be interim drainage sites as we develop and so forth, and then that material will be pulled out of there and taken off.
So you don't know whether or not it has to be dried out or sit there?
I don't believe it does. I think that may be more of a means and methods for the contractor on how much weight he wants to haul, I think, and if he can dry it out, maybe he's hauling less weight and can pack it in and get less trucks, I guess.
I thought
But
it was a state
I don't think
requirement
that's
that
a
you kept it in that
requirement.
general area. So when it drained in that.
It's usually a lot drier than it was out there tonight.
Just an FYI, you might want to double check that, yeah.
Have you addressed the waterworks concern about the underground utilities being close to the water main?
Yes. Their concern, and it's not shown on this plan, but we have underground electric and underground communications. We've since moved it away from, this is where the water line is here, and we've moved it into the property a little bit. And there's a hydrant that was built as part of the the previous phase, and I'll claim that my electric lines were not necessarily meant, that's exactly where it's going to go, but it's going to, we're going to put underground electric, so I did move it so that we're not crossing that hydrant branch. So yeah, that has been addressed on my current plans and the plans that I believe the plans that were submitted to alteration of terrain, and those plans that would come before the board for signature would include that change.
Now upstream, the drainage from Walmart and comes across the road, does that flow quite readily through that?
No, so the drainage from Walmart and stuff on Lakeshore Avenue is really kind of coming down Blackbrook itself and bypassing our site, so to speak, or going past our site at the, we're kind of converging with that before it gets to the lake. What drainage comes down from this stream is more Morrill Street in Guilford. I think it's kind of like the top of it is probably Farm View up on that side, kind of, if you know that portion of.
So that drainage that comes from the other property, which is, you don't see any impediments, and it just flows quite readily, does it?
From which property?
Well, from the Walmart property, and that comes across, and
Yeah, I mean,
That's actually the boundary of our property along
Yeah.
one edge, and that's, we're not impacting or impeding that whatsoever.
I mean, there's no impediments there, that's flowing pretty readily, is that right?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Complicated project.
Yep, it's a big one. Just the public input, Bill.
Yep, anything else you want to bring out?
I don't think so. We're going to do it right, the same way we've done the last couple of projects. You're welcome to take a look at what we've done on the property so far, and that's the way we're continuing to move forward. It's important to our business and growth of our business, and continuing to add employees in Laconia and everything that we do.
Right, perfect. Staff, you have any input on this?
You have a whole list of our conditions. We would appreciate you incorporating them into any motion that you make.
Okay.
But I think we're, from the Laconia standpoint, we're in pretty good shape, except for the absolute final recommendations from the Conservation Commission, but our Conservation Tech has not indicated that there are really any issues. I mean, everybody's been working together very well, and everybody's put together a very good plan.
And we've incorporated the Conservation Commission comments to date as conditions under conditions applicable during and after construction.
Any abutters or general public that want to say anything about this project? Any input? Okay, with that being said, we'll close the public hearing at 9:07. All right. Do we have a motion on this proposal? Take one now.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept with the conditions I think it's as recommended, is it on page 3 of 4, that list?
Yeah, it would be item number 3, 4, 5.
5 and 6. So recommend that we accept PL 2017-0037SP, 0038 CUP, 63 Blaisdell Avenue.
Can I I apologize, can I jump in and clarify that you are approving the application? Because I thought I heard accepting.
I thought we accepted it earlier.
Okay, I thought I heard you said,
Yeah.
okay.
I think we've already
correct.
We have accepted, we have accepted, we're going to
We're
approve.
approving.
Just want to make sure I
I
got
got
this.
that sequence down, didn't I?
You're doing good.
Okay, I'm just learning, this is the first.
Nope, you're doing real good. Real well.
Okay. MBL 304-22-G, proposal to stormwater infrastructure for boat storage.
You have a second on that?
Second. Do we need to be specific, or are we just good with conditions 1
I
through 6.
said with conditions, as,
Yep.
would you like me to read out the numbers specifically?
I think it's okay.
I'm just curious.
Nope, we're good.
We'll
Well, I
take a vote.
mean, we know those conditions specific, they're stated, right?
Yep, they're here. They were on page 3 of 4, number 3, 4, 5, and page 4 of 4.
You got many bites at this apple.
5 and 6.
Many bites at it.
Okay.
You want me to read them? I can.
Did I categorize that
Okay.
right, Dean? Okay.
You took the shortcut, and I like that.
Okay, I'm glad you did it. Efficiency is our
Second?
most important product. You do.
Yes, you did.
So we have a second on that, any discussion?
I already seconded.
She did.
Oh, you second it.
I did. So let's vote.
Can we have a vote on this?
You can.
All in favor?
Very good.
Can't vote.
All in favor?
So we all in favor, none opposed?
There you go.
Okay,
Motion
so good luck.
passes.
And that's
Keep the waterways flowing?
conditional use permit and the site plan.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
You say?
Thank
You
you.
want to make sure it was.
Project, thank you, that's a very thorough project.
It's really well.
Nice project. It'll be a big one. What do they want? Let's see.
This
Here,
is,
oh, do you want this?
Let's just say, no.
Next one up is the St. Francis Rehab and Nursing Center. Again, it's all the,
Dish?
Sorry, guys, Steve, you just take that down. That was-
is the application complete?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Is that a motion to accept this application?
I'll make the motion, we accept it, yeah.
Have a second on that?
I will second that.
All in favor?
All in favor. 406 Court, 406 Court.
No.
Good evening. My name is Erin Lambert with Novus Engineering. I'm here on behalf of St. Francis Rehabilitation and Nursing Center.
Can I interrupt? Could you talk closer to that
Oh,
microphone?
I'm sorry. Better?
I can't hear in a good.
Sure. Again, I'm Erin Lambert with Novus Engineering. I'm here on behalf of the St. Francis Rehabilitation and Nursing Center. I have with me Sean Bolduck with the Valley Brenzinger Architects. I also have Brenda Buttrick, who's the administrator of St. Francis, as well as Harry Dangora with New Hampshire Catholic Charities, should you have any questions for them. We're here before you today for the St. Francis facility. They're planning a 9,000 square foot addition to their existing facility, which is located on Court Street. They're at 406 Court Street. There's a plan to orient you. They're on the south side. On the north side of Court Street, there is the WOW Trail and then Lake Winnisquam. So the addition, it's a two-story addition. It's a 5,700 square foot footprint. They're planning an addition and renovation in order to take 7 double units and convert them into 14 single rooms. They're also planning to construct a new rehabilitation facility, gym on the first floor. And then on the lower level, they'll have a new laundry as well as maintenance facilities. They currently have a small, sort of like a portable school building, which they use for maintenance. And once the new addition is completed, that building will be removed. The project, the building is serviced by municipal water and sewer. All water connections will be made internal to the building. There is a new sewer connection planned connecting to a manhole that's on the site. So there's no proposed, there's no need to go into Court Street for any of the utility connections. We are planning a new electric service, and that'll all be underground per your regulations. We have 2 requests before you tonight. We have a conditional use permit to disturb steep slopes. Basically, the building is built into a hillside, and so the expansion will also be built into the hill. So we performed, there's a detailed letter that we submitted with our application. We performed a tree count to make sure that we conformed with your regulations to not take out more than the allowed trees in that area, where the maximum amount is 50%, and we're taking out about 36%. I will say that that's conservative. We wanted to make sure we erred on the side of caution, but we'll work with the contractor to make sure if we can tie that slope down sooner, if we can orient, there's a drainage pipe going in there, if we can orient that such that we don't need to take down trees, we're hoping to preserve more trees than we're showing in the application. The stormwater will be controlled through an underground infiltration gallery that'll be just below the new addition. That will basically control the rate of runoff and also treat the runoff so that in the required storm events we'll be matching or reducing the rate of runoff compared to what leaves the site today. The other thing, there's a gravel fire access road in the rear of the building. We won't be changing that. When we came before the technical review committee, they asked us to make sure that we didn't use that for the main construction access, and that note will be added to our plans. The second request, in addition to the conditional use permit we have before you, is a waiver request to not connect city sidewalks to the property. St. Francis is set up on a hill, and the driveway wouldn't be accessible. It's fairly steep. The right-of-way on Court Street is also fairly narrow. You've got the guardrail on the north side and then down the steep slope to the Wow Trail. And on the south side, on our property, it climbs pretty quickly. They're defined as steep slopes per your ordinance, and there's some nice mature trees there. So it's really not conducive to putting in a sidewalk, and we don't want to encourage pedestrians to cross the road there to try to get to the trail on the other side because it wouldn't be a safe access. So we are requesting a waiver from the requirement to put a city sidewalk connecting to our property. That's all I have for a presentation. I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Is that your elevations?
Yeah, you want to see them?
These are just some rendering elevations of what the building looked like with the addition. We're planning on using cementitious siding with a brick base to kind of tie back to the existing brick structure that's there. Flat roof with roof drains that would go out to the street.
What would be the total square footage in the end? You're adding 9,000 to...
So the first floor plate would be about 5,500 square feet. 2,500 would be underground. There would be a small training room down there as well, conference room.
A question about the sidewalk. Is there currently a sidewalk, I can't remember that side of the road except there isn't one right now in front of your property, but where does the Laconia sidewalk end on the south side of Court Street? I don't think there's, I mean, I don't want to see anybody, I don't see any people walking along and then coming to your property.
I don't believe there's any on the south side of the road.
I don't think there is.
There isn't. It's on the north side of the
It's all the WOW side, yes, okay, thank you.
We'd have to go way down by past Beans and Counting, down
Way
on to
down.
Gianni's
Yeah,
warehouse, down towards Durkee Brook.
okay.
Down that area.
Yeah, it's a long way away.
And they're right. I mean, those are some, I would imagine if the sidewalk was put there, you'd lose some really nice trees, some old-growth trees that are right along the
And
road.
have to have that wall, yeah, steep.
Dangerous on the sidewalk.
This is the footprint of the addition that we'd be adding. This is existing, we tie on over here. That's the first floor plate there, and this is the basement.
Doubling the size.
Well, no, it's cut off.
Let me orient you.
I only show the area that would be worked on.
Sure, sorry. So this is the existing building footprint here, and this is the addition that we're adding. So Sean's plan only showed sort of this corner, but this is all existing building here.
Okay. Feel free to double the size.
Yep. We need them.
Can I have staff's input on this project?
So I'll start with the conditional use permit for the steep slopes. This project has met all the criteria that are listed in the zoning ordinance for construction and development within precautionary and prohibitive slopes, which are slopes of different grades. They meet all the design standards and other required criteria. As far as the sidewalk waiver request goes, this actually is one waiver request that we as staff do support. DPW supports it as well. As you can see in our staff review, it says the slopes along the Court Street frontage are really steep. The only way a sidewalk would be constructed is to cut deep into the slope, build a tall retaining wall. It'd be extremely expensive, and it would be pretty destructive to the trees that are there and the landscape. And it as we discussed, wouldn't really connect to anything. And we do have across the street the WOW Trail and some other pedestrian access ways. So in this instance, we actually would support a sidewalk waiver. So if you grant the waiver, that would mean you grant the waiver and discussion of payment in lieu of that we're not asking to consider that. The site plan itself meets all our regulations. We have just a couple of plan revisions, which we had already discussed with the applicant. They're fairly standard, just a few new things, other things we need shown on the plans. Couple of plan notes that are standard. And then other than that, under sections 3, 4, 5, and 6, those are standard conditions as well.
Any public input on this? Yes.
My name is Mark Haynes. I live on 55 Durkee Street, and I'm an abutter on the west side of the St. Francis property. I have some concerns, but if technical reviewers reviewed it, it's a very dangerous area because now it goes to 2 lanes. They only have the entrance and the exit are the same. And it's a very dangerous area. And if you have traveled that at all, that's become the corridor of I-93. With the lights there and everything, the city can't maintain 30 miles an hour. So that's a dangerous thing. But that's a concern that I have. As far as the project is concerned, it's fine. My only real concern, and it's personal in the sense that somewhere it shows Bayview Avenue. And Mr. Downs, who couldn't be here, who's in Utah, who I spoke to, but I'm not speaking for him. According to the tax map, he lives at 378 Court Street. Something just doesn't jive here. And when this all came up, I have the original deed to the property, and it says, together with the right to pass and repass over Bayview Avenue, so-called, to Court Street. I can give you a copy. I'm just concerned that, had that property been surveyed so that it shows, even though it's a private road, that it shows Bayview Avenue? Because if not, I have a right-of-way to nowhere.
It is Bayview Street on
here. But it only goes as far as the Downs property. It should go all the way back to, so that abuts our property.
Okay, Haynes. See, he's saying Bayview's only, it should go all the way down here.
Right.
Sorry.
So, Mr. Chairman, that's my only concern, is that, that people are aware that does exist, and I do have a right-of-way to it.
Is that on their property? Is that what you're saying?
Well, who knows where it is? That's my concern. And then when I saw in the plans that some of the drainage was going to go on to Bayview Avenue, I'm thinking, okay.
So it's...
Well, but if it's not
And
on
that's
this
a deed.
property, it doesn't need to be shown.
Here's Bayview.
No reason. That's what, this does a big circle. Well, that's hey, I don't know what he's doing.
Well, yeah, in his deed, he has that. In the deed, he's got right away to this. But it may not show it going all the way.
You're saying Bayview goes all the way to Mr. Downs' house, or all the way?
It stops there.
And that's okay?
That's fine, but it should show because my question is, where do, at some point in time, there has to be a rite of passage from my property to Court Street, as it says so right in the deed.
Right, and
You're Mr. Haynes?
Yes.
Oh, sweet, okay.
all right.
So, I don't know how close that's been surveyed, and if they show that, if St. Francis shows that on their deed, and the whole works.
They, on this plan, Bayview Street is shown from Court up to Mr. Downs' house.
Right.
But all of Bayview Street is not on St. Francis property, it's to the east of their property line.
You're sure of that?
According to this plan. And then Bayview Street is not shown beyond Mr. Downs' house on this plan. It doesn't mean it's not there.
Well, I don't want a lot of debate about it, but obviously in 1945, somebody decided there was a street or a road or a passage to Court Street.
So, with this proposal, they are not disturbing any land near the property line. Their property line, which would be Mr. Downs' property line, and then by a little bit beyond that, your property line. Okay, they're pretty far away.
Yeah.
And
But I'm just wondering
all of their drainage is going to be taken care of on their property, primarily underneath their new structure that they're going to build.
Does the city plow Bayview?
No.
Pick up trash or anything?
No, the trash is picked up on Court Street. The mail is delivered on Court Street. But, like I said, on the tax map, it shows Bayview Avenue.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, sir.
I need clarification? No.
I don't think so.
Me neither. Okay, any more public input?
Would you like this back, sir?
Okay, I'm going to close the public input at 9:27. So can I have a motion on this applicant?
Go ahead, kid. I couldn't find the line.
Well, I don't have on the tablet here your recommendations.
Oh, do you want my copy?
I'm going to make a motion.
You can do it.
I'll do it.
You're granting the waiver for the sidewalk, conditional use permit, and then...
That comes first, right?
And then, yeah, and then the standard conditions of
Okay, I
approval.
move that we grant the
Right.
waiver.
6.
I move that we grant the waiver for the sidewalks. Simple enough.
I will second that.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay.
Conditional use permit.
Pardon?
Conditional use permit.
That's-
Okay. So, I'm going to do it the new way.
The better way.
Is this the David way?
No,
Perfect.
no, I did it the old way and went through all the numbers and everything like that. Wasted a lot of my breath. I recommend that we grant conditional approval with the following criteria. This is for application number PL 2017-0040 CUP and PL 2017-0039 SP. Conditions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, as described in the recommendations by the planning department.
You have a second on that?
Second it.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Okay, let's have a vote on it. All in favor? Any opposed? Passes.
Thanks for your patience. Application accepted.
Hey, yo, Liz, you told me something new.
Maybe fill out.
That's on there.
Go ahead.
I don't have all the information.
That's right.
On this section,
Yep, get a new business.
the
MB.
report for
What's your bell? Not new bells, new business.
Irwin Marine.
So what they wanna do.
And it's got other stuff in other places, so we're gonna have to go back to the paper for a while. Excuse me, I'm just
No,
out of
just
that.
let us know how we can jump in if we can. Okay, getting on to new business, nomination for offices, and let Bailey work, so if you would bring that forward,
I have one person who expressed interest in being the secretary, and that was Jay.
Yep.
So I would like to nominate Jay for the secretarial position.
what did we talk about last month? What did we talk about last month? Our nominations to June also? I don't
Yes,
know.
Brandy sent us all the criteria of what you're expected to do when you volunteer for this type of a position.
Really?
I read them and I said, I'm glad to do it.
Okay. But there are two other nominations, right? We talked about last month?
Yes.
And we said we do it all this time? Okay. So we're doing it all one nomination or separately?
Well, the nominations would be this month, the vote would be next month.
And the vote's in June. We have to nominate this session.
Right, so the nomination, in this case, Jay.
Yes.
Right. Would that include the other two nominations?
It can.
Can't we nominate them all together? if
That's
they're-
what we did last
Do all
month.
in
I
one whack.
thought that's what we did last month, so you want to do that? Okay. You want to change your motion? Your recommendation?
No, I just did the nomination for Jay, and, because he's the one that did express interest.
Okay.
Okay?
I'll second it. Do you have any other nominations?
Thanks, Mike.
I would like the people to express their interest in the other nominations, rather than, me.
Oh, I see, okay.
What other nominations do we have?
What are they
Chair
for?
and
Chairman
vice
and
chair.
vice chair.
Chairman
Chair
and
and
vice
vice
chair.
chair.
Vice chair,
A chair and a vice chair.
yes.
Secretary, chair, and a vice chair.
That's right.
So do we have anyone that's interested in chair?
I thought we did this last
We
time.
did that last month.
So
I'm
we're all
not sure
set.
where we are in this
Yeah.
whole
It's
process.
easier if we do it
Again?
again in one
So,
meeting, because that way.
forget, did you say vice chair?
I don't think I said anything, but yeah, go with you.
That would be Bill and Ed, right?
Yeah.
That,
what I thought.
Chairman Bill and
I
I've only
nominate,
been in the job for
Nominate.
what?
I know.
A month and a
Not
half.
that I
I'll
have.
I'll
Not even
nominate,
100 days.
I'd like to nominate Bill for chair.
And I'd like to nominate Ed for vice chair.
Good.
Okay, any seconds on
I'll
those?
second it.
Second. So we have
All in favor, then?
nominations for Jay,
yes, we do.
For secretary.
Edwin, and myself.
Ed for vice chair
Chair.
and you for chair.
And that's what we have nominations for.
You
And
know I gotta
secretary,
propose
secretary.
this.
Don't make us take it back.
Don't you dare.
And Jay? for
Okay, all in
secretary?
favor of that?
Yep.
Any opposed? Okay, so
More power to you.
So we're done.
not yet, we gotta listen to
Done
the
the
minutes.
nominations.
There's more. Plenty more. I have to show my thing, too.
The allowance.
To,
CR zone.
Did it make you think of it?
Oh, we got to vote.
change the public hearing for the CR zoning.
Okay. Does everybody know what happened?
No.
Okay, let me tell you. We had the public hearing here on the conditional use changes. We recommended to the council that they hold a public hearing and adopt the recommendation. They held the public hearing. There was some, I'll call it, back talk about the changing the nightclub use from permitted to a special exception. And So the council, over my objection, I want you to know, but I'm here to advocate for what the council's doing, recommended that we send it back to the planning board for another public hearing, changing the conditional use from, keeping everything else the same, but changing the conditional use for nightclubs from special exception to permitted. Because the feeling was that in that area, people were worried that any conference center couldn't have a bar or a nightclub or that kind of stuff. So that was the view expressed by council. So that is what we would be scheduling for a public hearing next time. And I assume that our vaunted planning department will come up with a new list of conditional uses, much the same as we had before, with that exception, so that everybody will know.
So that came from the council.
That came from the council.
In the
And we
public
agreed
hearing.
with it.
It's a recommendation.
In the public hearing.
So
There
what-
was a public
In the
hearing.
public-
We agreed to it, and then we said, okay, council, we agree to that, send it
No,
forward.
this is the way it went. The actual changes in the conditional uses came from me and sort of the planning department.
Past history.
Came after the whole fiasco relating to the zoning ordinance and the weird stuff and Warren's resignation and so that all came.
So we got that here, and then what happened was we turned that over to the zoning task force. And they had that for a while.
No.
It came back to us, right?
You know what, we didn't...
If you want
that path
to,
is
if you want to
okay,
do,
right?
if you want to do the history,
Yeah.
it goes back a long way. But
No, I mean this last rendition. That's
no,
what-
these conditional use changes never went to the task force this time around because they came out of the 2015 task force recommendations that the council didn't approve.
Right.
Okay? So those conditional uses, at the time, I said, we can adopt these conditional uses, but they said no. So those conditional uses sat around for a while. The mayor then proposed, and the city council sent on to the planning board, this zoning change up at the Weirs with the 100-foot, 300-foot strips, and that came before a hearing here. And the planning board didn't recommend it. So the city council, acting appropriately or inappropriately, did what I'll call a vote of no confidence with the planning board and voted to shut off funding. That was over my objection also. And so that's when the former chairman resigned. We got together, the planning board and the city council, formed this committee, which we're going to start working on, and you know who you are if you're on it. And we're going to start working on that. In the interim, I wanted to put a placeholder in the zoning ordinance, so I came up with this idea for a change of use. And I basically adopted the changes of use that the zoning task force proposed back in 2015 with some changes.
4 or 5, right?
4 or 5 changes, including like no motor vehicle, no trailers and stuff like that. So, everybody with me?
Yeah, we were there.
Okay, I'm going to repeat myself now because I've already said that.
Or you can motion to vote for this. Sorry. Good.
Okay.
I'll gladly do that. So, and the council said, no, we want the nightclubs back in, so because that's a substantive change, it has to come back to the planning board has to have a hearing, has to schedule a hearing on it, and we have to vote on it, and then it goes back up to the council, and they can blow up again, I don't know, I'm not making predictions.
If I could just say, too, there was a public hearing at the city council, and it wasn't just the city councilors talking about this. There were several people from Weirs Beach area or Laconia,
Oh, that's right.
myself included, who got up and stated why they either were for or against this nightclub thing. And then if I recall, David, I don't think anybody spoke in favor of it. I thought one person that was there was going to, but everybody that I saw spoke against it before.
And I tried to explain to everybody that your objections about it were when, well, never mind, I'm not going to get in that argument with
So
you,
let's
Charlie,
motion a
again.
vote to
So,
have
but
a
that's how
public
it
So
gets.
here's the thing, right, we got this back.
So it gets back here, and I'm an advocate for scheduling a public hearing and eliminating the nights club. I'm the liaison from the council. The council told me what to do, and this is what I'm doing.
All right, good one.
Oh, we have a hand up over here. Indeed.
Oh, goody.
Hey,
Dean?
Mr. Chairman.
Hi, Dean.
Hi, yes.
Okay, so what, you, a month or so ago, took a vote for a recommendation and you sent it to the council. So what you need to do tonight is vote to amend the table, changing nightclub from E to P, and then refer it to a public hearing next month. You need to amend it so that we can publish the new list for the
Yeah, but
public
we're not
hearing.
We're not hearing what the city council heard, the objections or whatever.
I'm not sure we have to amend it, because the city council already sent it back with the recommendation that we eliminate, we change that. But I'm willing to amend it because it's the fastest way to do it. So I move to amend the change of use tables as proposed before to permit, I don't have the specific thing in front of me, but
Nightclub
this'll do.
dance hall.
It's the nightclub from a special exception to a permitted use. That would be the one change on the change of use. So I make that motion.
Second it.
Okay.
Discussion.
And that is so that we can open it for a public hearing. Correct. Okay,
And you're gonna-
thank you.
Then you'll vote to
Yep.
schedule a public
That's
hearing.
right.
Well, as we left it the way it was, we have no public hearing.
Correct.
I got
That's,
you.
I just wanted to make sure.
That would have to be done on a, that had to be on a planning board date, right?
All in favor? Any opposed? Passes, so we're going to recommend that for next month.
Okay,
So
so
I
I
make a
I move that we
motion
schedule this for a public hearing at the
on
next
June
regularly scheduled planning board meeting.
And I second it.
Which is June 6th.
June 6th.
June 6th.
June 6th.
It's going to be a big night.
Okay. Old business, is there any old business
I'll give you the night off.
that we want to talk about?
Well, can I just, the master plan we have
Well,
discussed?
that's the old business.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Okay,
saying.
so yes, is there any old business? And
There you
I'm
go.
jumping right on.
I
Good.
just wanted to get an update on the master plan.
Yep, let's
Because
see
we had some
update on
discussion
this.
on
have
it
some
last.
personal gardens.
What?
Do we have anything to vote on for personal?
Oh, no, that's,
No.
That's what you canceled in the,
No.
okay, all right.
Okay.
So old business question was around master plan update. We discussed it at the last meeting about getting together with the council and
I've talked to the city
Moving
manager.
quickly.
We've got 3 representatives from the city council, which is the mayor, Henry Lippman, and me. And we've got 3 representatives from the planning
Well,
board,
we're down to 2 now.
which is you. You've agreed to this now.
Oh, I have, okay.
Yes, and Liz, and you, Mike. And we're gonna set up a meeting we're gonna try to do it by the end of May to get going on this. But you gotta remember, this is budget time for the city council, so there may be some delays until we get the budget adopted.
Well, have we got any information from, I guess something was being proposed or something like that?
there was an RFP being discussed.
What's
that we can-
what's going on right now with the city manager and the planning director is simply negotiations with the Lakes Region Planning Commission about the scope of the contract, the cost of the contract, and there's nothing substantive going on in terms of what do we want, how do we want to frame this. The only thing that's going on is negotiations about contractual obligations. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't want to be involved in that at all. That's not my business. My business is to see what we can do about the master plan, so.
So that's the scope of it.
And their business is to save the city money and come up with a good contract.
But that's the scope of it, nothing more than that.
Are you contracting the scope for
What's
the
that?
scope of the master plan, though? So it's like,
I think all they're doing is they're hiring them for X amount of days or hours to come and help us with the master plan.
You're
Is that
hiring a
correct?
resource, that's all you're
They're
doing.
hiring
That's all that's being negotiated.
When you,
So-
when you.
My question
that's
is,
fine. I think that just needed to be clarified,
Yeah.
because if you're hiring it for to do, because at the last meeting it was presumed that you were doing specific parts of it, then that's a different story.
It's to get the resources to
Correct.
help us.
When the master plan subcommittee says we need to know about X,
Yeah.
there's nobody on that subcommittee that probably knows about X or has the time to find out about X, they will go do that for you.
And they'll write it. too.
Everybody clear about that?
Thank you.
And
we're
somebody
not
will
clear
just
what's gonna happen,
let
but
us know how this falls beautifully together.
You know, I asked
Okay.
Scott,
yeah, it would happen.
I said, Ham was on that committee.
Yeah.
Who's gonna, we gotta get somebody. And he said, you're gonna do it, so
Is that what he
you're
said?
gonna do it.
Is that what he said? Oh, okay. Well, it's just to know who's pulling my chain, eh? If they think they can, that's sure. We need to, we have the planning department, do you have anything you want to put?
Things are picking up for the summer, construction-wise. You'll probably start seeing, we've all seen all the road construction. In addition to that, though, if you've been down at the Weirs, you see that they're working on the retaining wall at the Nazwa, which was not a site plan, but it's a really interesting project. They paired with DPW for that. We don't have, Weirs Beach Village continues to move along at a good pace. Couple of things are just kind of starting up now that construction season is on. As you can see, we have some pretty busy agendas. We've had quite a few people come in. We're expecting a number more projects as things go on. It's definitely, I think, already busier than this time last year. So
So all active is the technical review committee.
we're pretty busy.
You busy?
Yeah, and we're trying to implement a new software program, which is raising my blood pressure, but we'll get there.
Okay. Has anybody attended one of those technical review committees? I know Charlie has a few in his under his belt by now.
They are open to the public. They're usually 1 or 2 Wednesdays a month. We have the whole, well, you guys all have the whole schedule too.
Is the next one worth going to?
No, I
Because
says
it's gonna be
anybody
doing
been
the
to one of those
development on
technical
Weirs,
review
up the
committees?
Weirs and Endicott Road.
Just observation, just to get a good feeling for what
Yeah, I
goes
mean,
on
you're
there.
always welcome to come to it.
You're
So
not
what
talking
you'll
about
get is kind of a
Motorcycle Week.
preview
Talking about
of
summer
what
in
you'll see
general.
next
In general.
next
Okay, I
month.
might go to that.
Whether it be a builder or something like that.
Great.
We have a vacancy here for the Lakes Region Planning Commission, and Ham was on that, he was appointed to that. But in his leaving, that leaves that open. If you want to think about it, you want to find out a little bit about it, what your
Well, I think
commitment...
that the Ham's appointment is a city manager's appointment, and then I think we should get a full vote here before we decide
A full vote on what now?
who we want to go, if we even decide that. I mean, and
Well, I'm
probably-
not sure that liaison to that is a city manager's appointment. In other words, it just happened to be him that picked up on that after he was here for a year or so. And then he decided, we have two we assigned to that. One is Warren, had been on that, and the other was him. But it doesn't preclude the city manager having a person he wants to put there. No, it doesn't mean anyone on the planning board can go on that if they want. Doesn't mean it's not a city manager appointment.
I'm not exactly sure how it works.
One plaza how it works.
Okay.
Okay, so just so you
but I
know-
just think we should have a full board and wait for the city manager's appointment before we make a decision.
All I'm saying
about-
is, if someone's interested, think about it now.
Okay.
It's something that it's coming about, and then we have to fill that slot. That's what I'm saying.
Good enough.
I mean, rather than get anybody committed tonight or not committed, that kind
Good
of thing.
enough.
Okay. Thank you, Council.
I ain't doing it.
Well, you think we would ask you to do that? Well, no, you got too much to do. Any other business, anything that's not relevant? We have any non-relevant stuff we want to talk about? Everything we talk about is relevant, isn't it, Kenny?
It has to be.
10 to 10.
Huh?
He'll give me some relevancy. It's 10 to 10.
Yeah. Okay, what about the minutes, approval for the minutes for last month? Make a motion to have the...
So moved.
Second it? Anybody second it?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Any discussion? None.
I
Okay.
abstain.
Huh?
I wasn't here. I can abstain, right?
Yep.
From the vote? I can't even do that?
Yeah, you can do that.
I abstain.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
You can call for that.
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
Really
I didn't think you'd have...
You didn't think I'd stop and slow that down, did you? No.
They generally go till 10 o'clock.